about. And at Daytona, they were at the front, racing for a stage win. A.J. Allmendinger in the 16, the 22 is Austin Cindric. And look what happens. Contact, trouble, and this incident opened the door for an upset. 18-year-old Ty Gibbs taking advantage late in the race. He would win in his first ever start, and that was a sign of things to come. 54 wins on the road course at Daytona. It does the same 2 weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas, but this time it was Kyle Busch behind the wheel. So who's the favorite today as we go to Mid-Ohio? Well, Jeremy Clements could win because he's won on a road course before, and he's got a good starting position. We talk about the success of Joe Gibbs Racing. Yes, there'll be a player today. Maybe Riley Herbst, who drove for Joe Gibbs a season ago, could be a factor. He's been really good on the road courses so far this season. More storylines coming up. Right now, we're going trackside.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in all of sports. Here to give the command, please welcome lead technician for B&L Transport, Dwayne Miller.
Drivers, start your engines!
Boy, I love that sound when they fire the engines. It's going to be a great day for racing in Lexington, Ohio. Welcome in, everybody, with a couple of guys that have won the Daytona 500. Michael Waltrip, Jamie McMurray. I'm Adam Alexander. And Jamie, this is race number 3 on a road course this season. So walk us through this 13-turn layout.
Yeah, Adam, it's a pretty tricky track. It's hard on tires, slick. Let's actually take a look at, we're going to start with turn 2. They call it the keyhole. This is a heavy braking zone. It's one of the first places they're going to come to on a restart. And you can see it gets pretty crazy. And the later in the race, the crazier it gets. We head down the backstretch, then into turn 4, the heaviest braking zone. You see Russ Lane, yes, last night in the ARCA race, spins out, ends up in China Beach. When you exit turn 4, it's going to take you down through the S's, down Thunder Valley, and then that's our next passing zone. You're going to see Regan Smith right here getting into the back to Alex Tagliani. This is actually on the last lap. Regan went on to win that race. You know, Mike, all the drivers that I talked to said that this track is kind of like the short tracks of road course racing.
I tell you, it gets me dizzy, especially when you leave turn 4, Jamie. There's so many twists and turns, so much action out there. Who is the favorite? Adam, you mentioned Austin Cindric in the 22 car. This team is strong on the road courses, particularly here at Mid-Ohio, dating back to 2013 when A.J. Allmendinger went to victory lane driving for Roger Penske. Sam Hornish got the win here at Mid-Ohio as well. And then the last time we were here, Cindric indeed did drive to victory lane. Cindric's home course, a lot of energy and excitement for this team. Talked to those guys earlier in the week. They feel very confident about their chances here today. And I'm telling you, I love the way this track comes to an end. You saw that shove by Regan Smith. Who's going to be in a position to give the old bump and run here today?
7 races at Mid-Ohio, and you talked about it, Michael. That 22 car for Team Penske, they've never finished outside the top 5. Cars about to roll off the pit lane, so let's check in with our pit reporters. We start things off with Jamie Howe. Good afternoon, Jamie.
Good afternoon, Adam. One driver I'm going to keep my eye on is Noah Gregson in that number 9 machine. He lines up 13th today, but he considers himself a bit of a road course specialist. In his 10 previous road races, he has 8 top 10 finishes. He has 6 top 5s, and he has raced here at Mid-Ohio before. That was back in 2019. It didn't end well. He ended the race with a lot of damage, so he did say it's going to take between 1 and 5 laps to really come to terms with the way the racetrack is going to race today. He needs to refigure out those brake marks, but then by the end of this race, I think watch out. For more, here's Vince Welch.
Well, how can you not be impressed with 18-year-old Ty Gibbs? In 6 races, he has 5 top 5s, not to mention a couple of wins here in the Xfinity Series, and he will roll off today from the front row. He's every bit a contender to win this race here this afternoon. Last night in the ARCA race, it was a dominating performance for Gibbs. In fact, every time he gets in the car, he expects to win. I talked to him before he climbed into the Xfinity ride here this afternoon about stepping up his game for the Xfinity Series, and he said, I really haven't felt the pressure to do that. I just kind of go out and do what I do. He said it with the nonchalance that you'd expect from an 18-year-old.
It's amazing, isn't it, Vince? At Daytona, in his opener, he just wanted to run all the laps. Today, he's a favorite to win. We're just about ready to go racing from Mid-Ohio. Glad you're with us on FS1.
And then
race, and I said some of this going to break it. Plus 46 on our leaderboard. He's now plus 8. Tell us where it all went wrong, Michael.
It looks like Jeb Burton there on the outside is the first guy to dip his right side tires into the dirt, kicks up dirt there, the next car gets into it, and then finally, chain reaction, it just got worse and worse, and Noah couldn't see where he was going, off the road, and totaled his car out. One turn, one caution, one DNF for Noah Gregson. Look at Gibbs barely staying on the road. You see Burton off the road. Brandon Brown that ran off as well, and there goes the ductwork to the 9 car, and the Bass Pro Shops Chevy goes up in smoke.
I feel like we've seen cars run off there a lot over the years. I don't know that I've seen that much damage, but every driver is going to take note of that right now, knowing that that's not a place that you can run off.
We go back to the very start of the race, 2019. They made it to the keyhole in this race before they started mixing it up.
And look, the blue and white 9, that's Gregson again. He's just getting pounded.
You know, he was really, really good road racer, and we've talked about this. 8 consecutive top 10 finishes on the road before this season. He didn't even get to start the race at Daytona because they had problems.
Wow.
Engine failure at Coda, and now this today. So across the board, things just not going his way when it comes to road course racing. Top 5 early: Cindric, Gibbs, the Burtons, and Allgaier. We're back in a moment. Tomorrow, the best season ever continues as the Cup Series hits Sonoma. It's the Toyota Say-Mart 350, where the best drivers of the world look to make it to victory lane in wine country. Our coverage starts here on FS1 with race day, 2:30 Eastern time. Then we're live from California with a race at 4. It's all on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Busy weekend for you, Jamie, with Michael and me today. Tomorrow in studio with race day, and there's Noah Gregson heading to the Care Center You know, 2 years ago, he won the West race at Sonoma. We've talked about his ability road racing, but unfortunately an early exit this afternoon at Mid-Ohio.
Well, you talked about him. He's kind of been a favorite going into every race, but I think he was also in that same category as a championship favorite this year. It just has not been a good year for Noah Gregson.
Let's get a thought on his teammate, Miguel Paludo, Vince.
Well, it's not often these days we talk about road course ringers, but Paludo may fit into that category. Runs full-time in the Porsche Carrera Cup Series in Brazil, getting this opportunity with Dale Earnhardt Jr. for the 3rd time this season, all on the road courses. He'd never seen this place before this weekend, got 30 minutes on the Chevy simulator, hours upon hours on iRacing, but he feels very comfortable, and if you're looking for a dark horse, keep an eye on that 8 car of Miguel Paludo today.
I like your thought there, and you mentioned 2 starts this year, came from deep in the field for a top 10 at Daytona back in February, under green as we start lap 5.
Funny how they're able to tidy things right up when they know how much trouble lies just off the course there, isn't it?
Don't speak too soon. Justin Haley moving down to the inside, trying to pick up a position in that 11 car.
That looked 4 wide there for a minute, Jamie. Guess not.
When you're coming down to turn 4, you hit 4th gear, right, Jamie? I mean, this is the fastest portion of the race course.
Yeah, heaviest braking zone on the entire track. And the one thing interesting about this corner is if you don't complete the pass, as you see Brandon Brown right there, he stayed on the outside. He's then kind of in the preferred lane when they get to that next corner. So you'll see guys fight for that all day long.
I like how you can, we talked about the twists and turns once you leave turn 4. I like how they can run through some of these corners side by side. Even though it's a road course, you don't see a lot of side-by-side racing on a road course. Generally, it's who can outbrake who, but you see these guys really mixing it up.
Yeah, Justin Haley and Brandon Brown literally running side-by-side through 4, 5, 6, 7. Justin Haley was able to prevail on the exit of 9, which a little bit of a crest of a hill there.
Mentioned Brandon Brown coming off that top 5 finish, saved a set of tires and rallied late 1 week ago at Charlotte.
What a great story that's been. Great performance for that small team. Just doing great things as that 68 bunch. Up in the top 10 here early, but doing a nice job. There you see him battling with A.J. Allmendinger, won here in 2013. I asked him the other day, Jamie, what he was doing 8 years ago or so, and he got to thinking, he'll, oh yeah, I won a race. He's going to have a drill shot to win one today.
Yeah, and when you see AJ in your mirror and you're in Brandon Brown's position and he exits the corner pretty close to you, you know he's going to show you the nose. You know he's going to try to outbrake you, and you kind of have to pick that battle, especially early on in the race, like how much you want to try to challenge him, knowing how fast he's going to be today.
And watch this orange car on Brandon Brown. He's going to do the same thing. That's Daniel Hemrick. He had the run that he needed, and Brandon Jones tries to fill the hole as well. These guys really have some good braking. I don't know if Brown in the orange car just brakes aren't quite as good, or if they're not warmed up, what the deal is, but he's getting beat in the corners.
I like this battle for 5th. Allgaier, who's won here, right behind him Haley, and then Allmendinger. We're on board with Haley, and he is sticking his nose inside of Allgaier every time he has a chance.
Yeah, one interesting thing, you see a track map actually on Justin's dash. That's so when he communicates to the crew chief that they make sure they're both talking about the same corner, knowing that we didn't have any practice this weekend.
Look how straight that track course is, pretty much to the left, Adam. You go up there, make a left, go down there and make a right. Then after that, you need that map to explain to your crew chief where you're at.
And for our viewers at home, we have a map top right to show where all these drivers are on track. Here's turn 1. And then the run down to the keyhole, where likely we'll see some big action as the day continues, in particular on restarts. We saw that replay from a couple of years ago coming out of break. And there
Brandon
goes
Brown making that move, Brandon versus Brandon. And now Brown's able to slip back inside as Brandon Jones slipped his tires under braking. Ty Gibbs keeping pace with Cindric. They can't close in, but there's a lot of battles elsewhere. I really like this 16 car. I believe he's going to be able to pace his way through the field. Obviously a great road racer, but also a very experienced racer. He knows that it's important to take his time.
The one thing I would say about both A.J. Allmendinger and Justin Haley is what a big race this is for them and Jeff Burton. Matt Collick, who runs that team, their headquarters about 90 minutes from the racetrack. A.J. told me yesterday, this is like Matt's Daytona 500. This is a huge event for them, a place that they really want to win, and this is really where his relationship began with the team. Made his third start for the organization a couple of years ago, finished in the top 5, and that's when he said, this is a group that I want to be a part of.
Yeah, and I talked to AJ earlier in the week, and he said he and Matt headed up to Ohio early, play a little golf, and just enjoy some time in Matt's hometown. So it's really cool to see him having such a great relationship with this team. Strong move to the inside by Haley. Drove down inside of Allgaier. I believe he's got the position with a big push from his teammate. Look at this.
Justin versus Justin with an assist from Allmendinger. Moved Haley up into the top 5, and maybe the 16's going to get 2 for 1.
A great move right there by Allmendinger.
That reminds me a little bit of what we saw last summer in Indianapolis on a late restart. Really nice work by the 16, who jumps into the top 5.
You know what's great about that, Jamie? The 16 gave the 11 a push, got him past the competition, and then, oh no, problem for Tommy Joe Martins in the 44. Looks like an engine failure. Caution is out too. I just think that's interesting because I bet you Haley said, okay, thanks for the push, AJ.
Yeah, he was getting ready to give a courtesy wave out the window.
And then all of a sudden he looks to his right, and here comes AJ past him. That is awesome.
Second caution of the day. Let's go to Jamie Howe.
Noah Gregson's now been sent out of the infield care center. You've been released. I heard on the radio you said to your team, one day this is going to go our way. It's just not today. What did you see? What did you not see?
I felt like we were making get away through. I mean, I only got a corner in, but was able to jump up a row and was exiting turn 1 and following the car in front of me. I'm not sure who it was, and they went in the dirt, and I was covered in dust, couldn't see in front of me at all, and went off the track a little bit, and I guess I don't know what I hit. There's a little cutout through there that's paved. I don't know if it clipped that or something, but you know, it hurt the oil pan, I'm guessing, and you know, it just sucks not being able to run with these guys in the Xfinity Series. I really enjoy this racetrack, but it's a bummer, it's frustrating, but our team, we keep our heads held high, and very thankful for our partners. Johnny Morris, he's down tuna fishing right now. Everyone at Bass Pro Shop, True Timber, Camouflage, Black Rifle Coffee. It takes everyone, and it's been a rough start to the year so far. I don't really know what to do anymore. I've been trying everything, but hopefully it'll go our way one day.
With the rough start that you mentioned, what do you do at this point now to turn things around?
Go to the merchandise hauler and go meet up with some fans and maybe grab a White Claw or 2. I don't know. That was a joke, but just have fun.
Thank you, Noah.
You know, we talk about the impact when it comes to the playoff standings, and I mean, look at Noah in the situation that he's in, plus 20, when he came in at plus 46 above the cut line.
And it could get worse, Adam.
Absolutely. Brandon Brown only 11 out. He's the first driver below the cut line. Second caution of the day for Tommy Joe Martins. We're back in a minute. Tonight on Fox, it's one of the greatest rivalries in sports as the Red Sox take on the Yankees. Or the Dodgers get the Braves. Maybe you'll see the Cubs and the Giants. It's tonight, 7 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Check your local listings for the game in your area.
Those are some great matchups.
They are. You'll be watching.
You darn right.
And they already loading the car.
Not a good sign, guys.
On the hauler. Not good.
And it's so disappointing for Noah, but the team as well just worked so hard to have it. He got a car he can win with. Make one turn, and you're putting it on the trailer. They didn't see that coming for sure.
You know, Ty Gibbs is 18, just graduated high school, and already he's going to school in this race.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know that he wants to get to the lead, but being able to follow Austin Cindric, who's one of the best around this racetrack, it's such a great learning experience of whether you're trying to figure out his braking zones, you know, how much curb he's using on entry or on the exits, and just getting little feels for what he maybe is doing a little bit different than what you have, seeing if you can use it later in the race.
And you know what I love about that, Jamie? He wants to pass him right now. He said, I think I've learned all I need to from him.
I'm good.
If I
Move
pass
on.
him and drive away from him, I think I know more than he does.
Credit to him for practicing patience, at least for now, Vince.
Well, and just as Jamie was saying, he is going to school. The spotter's going to school as well, and they just told Ty Gibbs that the 22 of Austin Cindric is beating him at turn 4, and the 22 is just driving it in deeper there, and to make sure to understand what you can do with your brakes to help get the car turned. So it is a lesson in process for sure for Ty Gibbs. Jamie?
And for Andy Lally, we've mentioned him as one of the ringers to watch. He started this race 27th. He's already been able to advance himself all the way up to the 15th position. He said, even though he starts way back there, his goal today is still a top 5 result. He said it's going to have to come early on in this race. So what they're doing right now is trying to work through some of the issues that they have. Andy has a big radio problem. He doesn't have great communication with the team right now. He's also struggling with the car snapping loose in the tight corners. But Andy's one of the guys that can fight through it.
Man, I love so much having him up in the booth at COTA for the truck race. Just a wealth of information, knowledge. Won Daytona 5 times. You know he knows how to get it done on these road courses. And Jamie McMurray, when Andy comes here, he expects more. That's why he was telling the team so much about what was going wrong with his car.
Yeah, he's had an incredible career, and you know, he's one of those guys that a lot of the younger drivers turn to when they go to one of these places, especially since we don't get practice of just asking little characteristics of the track. He's really well-spoken, and I feel like he's one of the best at describing, kind of like we talk about Kurt Busch describing his car. Andy Lally is super descriptive in everything that he does.
And no excuse if he is ever late to a meeting, because he's got like 100 Rolex watches. I mean, he's won a bunch of watches in his career.
And you know what you have to watch, Adam? That's why I love road racing so much. They make a couple of adjustments to that car from his direction. It wouldn't surprise me at all for him to be up in the top 5 before this thing's over.
His first ever top 5 in the Xfinity Series coming here a handful of years ago in Mid-Ohio. And I was talking to him about the competition this season. He told me he used to size up the competition and where does he need, who does he need to beat to finish in the top 10. He said typically it was 7 or 8 guys on a road course. Now it's like 12 or 14. He said this is as deep as he thinks this series has been in a long time.
You know, we're coming to our 3rd restart of the race here. We've had the same 2 drivers on the front row, and Austin Dillon's gonna have to keep shaking this up just a little bit of you know, trying to get that little bit of a jump on Ty Gibbs.
So we have some safety equipment on the track. We're going to add a lap. We'll go green when we return. It's the NASCAR Xfinity Series on a gorgeous day in Mid-Ohio. Several announcements coming this week from NASCAR that many tracks will be full capacity in the coming weeks and throughout the rest of the year. And they got a great day for it here in Central Ohio. So wonderful to see the fans out in full force.
I've never felt better at a racetrack than I did at COTA with so much energy, excitement. I mean, all Sunday morning before the Cup race, people are just happy to be there. And what a great feeling that was. And
it wasn't sunny and 75. It was rainy and 65, and they were still coming out. Here's the restart with 13 to go, stage one.
You know, you talked about Ty Gibbs learning, Jamie. He's got a couple of these restarts. This will be valuable later in the race to make sure he understands exactly what moves the leader is going to pull.
Yeah, you're just trying so hard to stay on the right rear quarter of that car in front of you. You see, looks like he's going to pull out and try to make a move right here.
Wow, you out.
Hey, they told him he needs to brake later. That's what he did.
You outbrake Austin Cindric into one of these tight corners here in Ohio. You've done your day's work. Can he hang on? Austin's right there. Wow, what a great move by the 18-year-old kid.
Yeah, he's going to have to play a little bit of defense right here. I think getting down into turn 4, Cindric's going to want to get that lead back.
And there he goes.
Now Austin's going to get to his inside, and if you can stay to the outside, then you have the preferred line in the next corner. We saw earlier in the race, those guys ran all the way to turn 9 side by side.
Jamie, you know this as a road racer yourself. You hate to get out-braked into a corner. You don't want somebody out
absolutely
doing a better job on entry than you do. Out-braking someone is one thing, but the second thing is keeping your car under control. Both those guys, awesome passes here on this initial lap of the restart.
And I think if you talked about these two and their characteristics, Cindric and Gibbs, you would say both fairly aggressive. What I like about what happened in both situations there, they were very meticulous in the way they made the pass. No contact and just getting the position and taking advantage.
It was beautiful road racing. That 2 turns there, that was beautiful. I love the way they just raced each other hard. And when they look in the mirror, speaking of racing hard, look who's fixing to join this battle for first. Here comes A.J. Allmendinger. He's up to 3rd.
It'd be curious to see if A.J. is willing to play as nice as those two in the front, or he might be just a little bit more aggressive. But I agree with Michael. I think that, you know, we get into the bump and the run. I know we like watching that, but racing is about passing and passing clean, and it's so much fun to watch guys be able to do that. You see, A.J. got a really good drive off of the keyhole. Is going to be on the inside of Ty Gibbs right here.
Ty slipped a little bit there in the center of the corner, and A.J. took advantage of it. Harrison Burton there in 4th looking on.
What's impressive about Allmendinger, not many green flag laps. He started this race 12th, and now he gets by Gibbs for 2nd. He might be the real player we're talking about today.
Based on what we saw earlier, he was getting 2 for 1 on most of the straightaways, right. So it wasn't that big of a deal.
Well, you know, you talked about it earlier, Adam, how much this means to Matt Collig and how much Matt Collig, his owner, means to A.J. Allmendinger, giving him this opportunity. They're best buddies, golfing friends, and I know that Matt's A.J.'s boss, but they're brothers.
Yeah, and if you're Austin Cindric, you weren't quite as nervous when Ty Gibbs was behind you, right? You know he's fast, but all of a sudden now you look up and you see it's a different car. A little different colors this weekend for A.J. Allmendinger, but I guarantee you that Austin knows who that is, and it looks like A.J. might have the best car right now, guys.
You don't think Cindric looked in the rearview mirror, got on the radio and said, "Who's in the red and white car?" You don't think
I'm going to say that he knew that one, yeah.
Yeah, he's a student of the game.
Yeah.
He knows what car Allmendinger's driving.
This is just great stuff. This is what a road course race should look like. Calculated passes, guys that are making bold moves. And now look at A.J. closing right up on the back of Cindric.
Well, A.J.'s got really good braking capabilities, but it just looks to me like his car's turning a little bit better, maybe just a little bit overall grip compared to what you see with Cindric. But Austin did a great job kind of getting off of that corner, and it's going to be hard to outbrake Austin Cindric unless you're right on him on the entry.
You know, I said this on Race Up this past week. What I admire about Allmendinger is not only what he has brought to Collig racing from a road racing perspective, but what he's obviously passed on to his teammates. Jeb Burton, Justin Haley, both finishing top 10 in each of our road course races this year. So it's not just the stats for Allmendinger, it's the transfer to those guys around him. But the focus right now, no doubt on the 16. He is there, James.
Yeah, AJ's definitely a little bit better, and you see he's trying to get to the inside here of Cindric. And look, when you give a couple of those little bumps, that's like, look, I'm better than you. When I get beside you, you need to let me go. As you see, Cindric didn't race him real hard right there. He knows that AJ's car is just a little bit better than his at this point in the race.
And Gibbs is hanging tight too, Michael.
Yeah, it's just everything you'd hope for. 3 organizations, guys that have adjustments to come. Think about that. The more experienced road racers, Jamie, they'll be able to tell their team what they're feeling and maybe get an advantage when they make that pit stop. And that's something else I'm really interested in, strategy. How will these guys play around those pit road rules you mentioned earlier, Adam?
Yeah, one thing about road course racing, though, that's a little bit different than what we have at ovals. Is at ovals, you can adjust on the balance of your car. Here, you kind of get the struggle of it's really just grip that you find, and they mainly do that with air pressure. Obviously, you can adjust the track bar, you can do some wedge, but if you make it better one direction, it's going to make it worse the other way. So it's a little bit harder here. I always felt like as a driver, when I came to a track like this, I knew they could maybe get me some grip, but really if I needed to find a better in one turn, it was more about me maybe changing my braking points, my entry into the corner, and just trying to find something as a driver.
Nice little battle here. 4th, 5th, and 6th. You got Harrison Burton, Justin Haley, and Daniel Hemrick. Let's get a report on the 11. Here's Jamie Howe.
When we talk about the strategy, one driver you just mentioned, Justin Haley, they're going for stage points right now. They are still within the top 10, but they're back in 8th place, so they need all of the points they can get. Just talked to Alex Jans, their crew chief, who will actually be going over the wall to do those rear tire changes later on. They said they are going to stay out until we get to the end of this stage. Vince?
Well, and Jamie, I think that you're going to see some differing strategies here in regards to some of the teams pitting with about 3 laps to go. As far as the 22 of Austin Cindric is concerned, his crew chief Brian Wilson told me earlier today they're looking for points in that first stage. He said we could change our mind as we near the end of the stage. He said, but I think I'm going to go for points here in the first stage and then maybe flip it in the second stage. So remember, trying to win that regular season championship, and if you do that, that's worth 15 playoff points, and that's top of the list of goals for this 22 team.
You know what I love, Jamie? There's 10 different agendas. Do I need points? Do I want to win a stage? What am I going to do? How do I set myself up for the best strategy toward the end of the race? And these crew chiefs, they have the playbook in front of them, looking at every scenario that could possibly dictate what they decide to do.
Yeah, and the unique thing about road course racing is that if you're going for the win, you're probably not going to get the stage points because of the way you're going to have to do your pit strategy. So for us to watch this, they said some are going to go for points, but I think when you look at Austin Cindric, AJ Allmendinger, maybe Ty Gibbs, clearly going to go for the win today.
Vince mentioned Cindric going for points in the opening stage. He's already got 20 playoff points. I mean, how many do you need? He's second on track right now behind AJ Allmendinger. Closing on the end of stage 1 at Mid-Ohio for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. While we were away, you actually saw it in our side-by-side. Harrison Burton off track, and he was racing close quarters with his teammate Daniel Hemrick and Justin Haley. This is what happened in the S's before he got off track in turn 1.
Watch this great move by Haley. Hops to the inside. Jamie, you mentioned it during break. Harrison Burton has been kind of holding these guys up, and Haley took advantage of that.
He has been, and that hasn't been a great passing zone, but Justin was able to pull that off. And you see, very similar to what we saw with Noah Gregson, just got a little bit wide right there, Michael. Huge amount of dirt in the splitter, and
wow, and the right front tore off of it. That'll end his day. And interesting that first corner is causing our guys so much trouble. Obviously, there's not much margin for error there.
Jason Ratcliffe is the crew chief, and he continued on, and we'll get another shot of his race car. I don't think his car was beat up as bad as what Noah Gregson's is, but as you look at it here, it's going to be very difficult for them to get that thing repaired and keep him in the game. And when I say in the game, I just mean making laps. I'm not talking about being a factor in the race.
And you see he can't get to pit road now. Barely gets up to pit road. All the lap traffic coming around.
Yeah, cut right in front of Jesse Little there in the 78.
Stephen Parsons is spotting for Jesse Little. I bet Stephen was wondering how are we going to get through this little mess we found ourselves in. There's Ryan Sieg in the 39 on pit road as well.
What's up, Vince?
Well, the biggest issue for the 20 right now is that the right front is not rolling, and you see that damage on the front end of this car. And remember, these teams don't have their normal pit crews with them because their crews are, for the most part, all in Sonoma. So this is a skeleton crew in regards to the driver or the members who go over the wall who would normally work on the car, or for some teams, they're members who would never normally go over the wall. They would just work on the team car in the garage area. So, but extensive damage to this 20, and I'd be surprised if they were able to continue on.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues that we see here is it looks like there's just splitter damage, but most of the time when you have an impact like that, it bends the front of the clip down. They're going to spend as much time as they can on pit road right here to try to beat the clock of what NASCAR allows drivers to have on pit road. But I'm with Vince. I don't see any way they're going to get that fixed where he can maintain a minimum speed.
You get 6 minutes to work on these cars, Michael, when you've been in a crash. If you can't get it fixed in 6 minutes, you're automatically done for the day. And I go back to what Vince said, and I asked this very question to NASCAR in our meeting. Do you give them more time because the guys going over the wall aren't used to repairing the damage? They said, no, the rules didn't change in that regard. And with that, it's going to be very tough for Harrison to continue.
What about our man Andy Lally we talked about? Didn't like the way his car is handling, just consistently and steadily moved toward the front. Gets around Brandon Brown there for the 11th position. So this is a solid run. You can build on this, Adam. You get an adjustment here. Watch for Lally all day long.
Yeah, he's excited about being here today. He said this was going to be his last Xfinity race of the year if they didn't find some funding to go to a few of the other road courses, which he really wants to. So good day for Andy Lally here in 11th.
27th to 11th, that's great. And just in front of him, another great story of an accomplished road racer, and that would be Alex LeBay. I'd love to see Lally and LeBay have a good day because they're two really good guys, and we know they're really good when it comes to this style of racing, Jamie.
You mentioned that he said this could be his last race unless they find some funding. He said he goes into every single one of these Xfinity races thinking that it could be his very last one. So every single one of them, he wants to go out and do his best. To the point he keeps a very meticulous list of notes. He showed me this list this morning that he has for here at Mid-Ohio, and he goes corner by corner. He even says, hey, future self, you tried this, it didn't work. You're going to want to do it again, but don't do it. He reads through that before the race each morning. He said today he feels more prepared for this race than he ever has for an Xfinity round here.
Boy, I've never referred to myself.
What kind of notes did you take, Mike? Seriously, like I'd like to know. Yeah, I know you talk to yourself. Did you take notes like that?
Hello, future self. How are you today?
I was doing practice with Michael at Charlotte last weekend. He was talking to himself, and we were on the air. I'm like, Michael, you're hitting the wrong button. You got to hit the mute when you're talking to yourself.
We talked about Jeremy Clements there in the 51 in the pre-race. He's having a nice run here early as well. 14th position, but he's knocking on the door of Brandon Brown, and a couple of spots there just ahead of him.
But Michael, look at all those guys right there bunched together. You got 12th Michael Annette, Brandon Brown 13th, Jeremy Clements 14th. These are all drivers that come in with very little margin above the cut line. If they run it to the end of the stage, they could get some much needed stage points. And foregoing stage points and playing strategy, first on pit road of the front runners, Ty Gibbs in the 54, Vince.
Well, just as we anticipated, we told you that there would be cars pitting with 3 to go. They can only get fuel on this stop because of the alternative pit procedures in the Xfinity Series race here today. Then he would go back out and have to come back around to get the 4 tires. So they can only fuel on this stop. They cannot fuel and do tires on the same stop. So the 54 will go around, come back, and get the fresh tires.
And they'll get those tires when we hit the stage break, Vince, because you can't put tires on under green. So you get fuel here under green, and then when the caution comes out, you'll come and get your tires, and when it all cycles through, that's when you'll see the advantage of track position. Andy Lally also coming down. Looks like Miguel Paludo making a stop. We'll watch A.J. Allmendinger and Austin Cindric. Will they play the points game, or will they come? And we're going to close pit road with 2 to go here, Michael.
Yeah, and we heard Vince talk about Cindric. He was going to stay out, was the early plan about getting those stage points. So it'd be interesting to see if they were pulling Vince's leg or if that's indeed what they do. I thought the interesting guy on pit road there was Daniel Hemrick. That shows you confidence, Adam. They said, we don't have to have stage points. We are fast enough. We will win races. And to put ourselves in the best position to win that race, they pitted with those guys. Ty Gibbs doesn't run all the races. Their strategy's a bit different.
Well, and I will say this, Dave Rogers, the crew chief in the Daniel Hemrick camp, he's someone who's been very successful when it comes to road racing and calling the strategy from the box. And when you look at Hemrick, here is a driver that's been great at Mid-Ohio, 2 starts with an average of 2.5, a second and third here. See Harrison Burton pushing his car to the garage. He's done for the day. Racing on track, Riley Herbst and Brandon Jones in the 19. Brandon getting experience yesterday evening in the ARCA race.
Herbst looks like he's faster right now, Adam. Really heating up the 19 of Jones. Can't seem to make the pass, but got a little bit better car right now. I think we've seen everything we're going to see strategy-wise. Guys that have taken a chance. It'll be fun to watch how this cycles out, Mcmurray.
You mentioned Gibbs and Hemrick. Also making pit stops, Myatt Snyder, Andy Lally.
Snyder with the victory in his pocket. Probably helped him make that decision. Lally doesn't run all the races. He's just here to try to get a win.
You know what's interesting about that is we didn't have that many guys get off sequence. So for these guys to stay out and get the stage points, it's not going to be that big of a deficit for them, because if we would have had 15 or 20 guys do a different strategy, then when they restarted this next stage, it would have been different. But it's not going to hinder Allmendinger, Cindric, Haley, Jim Burton, these guys that stayed out to get the stage points.
Looks like about 5 or 6 guys came in with the strategy play. They'll start up front when it's all said and done. We'll see who's able to make those passes and get back to the front.
AJ's making it look easy in this first stage. Looks like he kind of checked out to that 3 or 4 second lead, and it's just kind of on cruise control now.
I tell you, on a road course, there's nothing more aggravating than to have a guy on your bumper, because every turn you're thinking, here he comes, he's going to dive. But when A.J. Allmendinger's done what he's done here and drives off, he's got to feel really good about the way that car's handling, but also he can focus on the track and getting to this green and white checkered flag.
How about the day for Colin? I mean, AJ's leading, and he's taking all the headlines, right? But 3 of the top 4 driving for Colin. You got Justin Haley in 3rd, Jeff Burton in 4th, and Miguel Paludo is off track.
Yeah, he's stuck. And that team used the strategy. They come to pit. Can he get going?
I'll tell you what,
I'd be impressed.
That's pretty incredible if he's going to be able to get that out of there. I haven't seen anybody be able to do that.
And if he gets it going, it really probably works out okay for him, right? Because if there's no damage, they're just going to have to pit once under the caution. Green and white checkered flag is out, and the opening stage is going to go to A.J. Allmendinger. 2nd is Austin Cindric. Haley, Burton, and Allgaier, the top 5 for A.J. It's his 3rd stage win of the year. "25 laps in the books at Mid-Ohio. An entertaining opening stage, and Allmendinger able to win it." Stage one complete for the NASCAR Xfinity Series here in Mid-Ohio. The third of 7 road course races on the schedule in 2021 with Jamie McMurray, Michael Waltrip. I'm Adam Alexander, and now we take a look at our Ford Performance track facts. And it's all about Ford at Mid-Ohio. They've won here 4 times. And the one of these that does not really belong is Chris Buescher. I'm not being mean to Chris, but when he won here, he was driving for Jack Roush. All the other victories in the Ford camp for the captain, Roger Penske. When Buescher won here in 14, it was the first win of his career, and went on to have an unbelievable season, then came back and won the championship in 2015.
See Cindric there with his hand out the window, getting a little fresh air in. What's the plan here? I guess you pit once and get your tires. If you hadn't pitted already, you come back and get some gas, Jamie?
Well, Michael, what I have learned in this show is that it's a lot harder to figure out unless you're on one of these teams.
And what I've learned is you ask someone else the question so that you don't say it wrong.
Yeah, it's so confusing. You know that all these teams have spent all week kind of going through all the different scenarios of how it's going to play out, which stage they're going to try to get points in, which one they're not. Clearly, the second stage won't be quite as critical because you want the track position for the end of the race. But I misjudged this. I thought that most guys would pit early, just put fuel in, so they only had to put tires on when the caution comes out here. But they had a different plan. And
I want to say thanks to Vince and to Brian Wilson for not sending us down the wrong road. He said we're going to stay out and win these darn stage points and get a playoff point if we can.
Pit road is open, and most everybody making a stop here. Jamie Howe.
And Justin Haley, one of those running within the top 5. His message to the team over the radio was that it is really, really tight. He said his rear drive is okay. He doesn't know what to do with his brake bias at this point in the run. He said he really needs to be able to use it, but the car is just so tight. He doesn't have a lot for it right now. Now, this is a little bit of a different strategy because they were going to do fuel on their first stop, take tires the next time by, but they've switched it up, Vince Welch.
A.J. Allmendinger put the tires on first as well, getting a little inspiration from friend Mike Shank, your car owner for the Indy 500 winner Elio Castroneves, who's here watching A.J. today. And up front is Austin Cindric, and of course what a great season it has been for Cindric. He pitted from the 2nd position, and he's leading in all the categories: most wins, most laps led, stage points, playoff points. He needed a little better turn on the short run, so they're making an air pressure adjustment on the 22.
And a reminder, these are modified pit stops. And what we're talking about is limited numbers at the track with this being a standalone weekend. So you come in, you can take either tires or fuel. You can't do both. So the pit stop looks a little different in that regard. And you have much more time, 70 seconds to get all your work done under caution. And then once you're done, you go back to the track and you will restart in the same position as you were running when the caution came out. And there is a factor as well included in this equation on if you make 1 stop or 2 stops, or if you just stay out altogether. And we're going to see a little bit of everything here because, as we know, prior to the caution coming out, some teams had already come down and taken on fuel. They will just do tires here and make it a 1-stop trip under this caution at the end of stage 1. Miguel Paludo, who spun and got into the gravel, is our free pass car, and we'll set the lineup when we come back to Mid-Ohio.
Paludo.
Enter Clint's Fox Bet Super 6 Stage 2 contest. For tomorrow's race at Sonoma, it's your chance to win $10,000 of Clint Boyer's money. Just download the app and pick 6 race outcomes about Stage 2 for your shot to win. It's free to play. Don't miss out. Play now while there's still time.
And while there's still cash left.
Yeah.
He must have a lot of money. He's been giving a lot away this year.
And Jamie, let me ask you a question. When you ever give any money away, did you have that smile on your face like Clinton has it?
I'm going to say, Michael, that they added that cash below his hands. I'm going to say that was not at the same
He didn't
time.
really feel like,
I don't think so,
he was
no.
giving it away.
Just pose for the picture. Come on, bigger smile,
Come here.
Clint. Yeah. He had no idea how television
No
works.
clue.
He does now. Allmendinger in control of Mid-Ohio. Here we are, Mid-Ohio, stage 1 complete, just about ready for our second stage. Opening stage went to A.J. Allmendinger, second was Austin Cindric, so we're a bit late, but let's go from the driver's seat with our defending champion.
Yeah, I love the driver's seat. We talked about what it looked like. Look at that. That's just a great view. I'm going to tell him I'm jealous. Hello, Austin Cindric. It's Michael Waltrip and the Fox Boys. Do you copy? I don't like that dinger. That little
I don't think it's good when it
ding.
beeps.
Hello, Austin Cindric, Michael Waltrip and the boys from Fox. Do you copy? This is not going.
See, we shouldn't have put, I told you not to put Michael in charge of the radio. I knew that was the problem.
Can we try the dinger? See if he'll answer
I was
our
going to
call?
say that the dinger's bad for you and Cindric. I mean, so it's just not going well.
Well, darn. It says talk to drivers. I'm pushing the right button. Feel good about my exercise here, even though it didn't work. Maybe we can talk to someone else.
Hey, while you're thinking about that, a couple of penalties. Brandon Brown speeding on pit road. He starts at the rear. Someone that really couldn't afford to have a penalty based on where he is in regard to our playoffs leaderboard. Another guy, Jeremy Clements. They exceeded their allotted time on pit road, so they lose their position, penalized, and they too will start in the back. All the service is complete now, and NASCAR will work to get the lineup set. And we would anticipate the way things look now is the way they will go. Gibbs, Hemrick, Snyder, Sieg, Lally, those guys that played strategy came and got their fuel before the stage ended, so they only had to pit one time under caution. They start up front, and then it'll be Allmendinger and Cindric, 6th and 7th on the restart.
The reason why we couldn't talk to Austin is we got spotters everywhere, Adam, and 3 or 4 around this racetrack, and so they're constantly communicating with the driver, and we get drowned out by the spotter. So Austin, we talked to him in break. He was ready to talk to us.
They override us, huh?
We got overruled.
Are you saying it's not your fault?
It's not my fault.
It's totally Michael's fault.
I do not like your attitude, Jamie.
All Joe Gibbs Racing front row as we begin the second stage. The 54 is Gibbs, the 18 is Hemrick. Here we go once again from Mid-Ohio.
All right, Michael, when I get to turn 1, what am I not going to do?
Run off the road.
Not going to run wide for sure. We've seen 2 guys do it today.
And that's a pretty safe approach for the front row through turn 1. They all make it. Andy Lally up in that second row. It's cool to see Andy up front. Myatt Schneider with a good run as well early. These guys are really jostling for positions. A lot of differing strategies. It'll be interesting to see when we run a few laps if AJ can make his way back to the top of the heap.
And on board with Cindric, you know he's got an eye on that 16. Doesn't want him to get too far away in traffic as they work toward the front of the pack. And here comes Hemrick, maybe looking to the inside. He thinks better of it on his teammate in turn 4. Yeah,
Hemrick looked really good actually down into the keyhole as well. It seemed like Ty was maybe being just a little bit cautious. It's so much easier to be the car behind when you're trying to outbrake somebody.
Justin Allgaier on pit road. Maybe oh, he's going to the garage.
Man, must have been an engine issue, possibly. Maybe electronics, who knows? Speculating.
Junior Motorsports, 4 wins all time on road courses, 2 of them courtesy of Allgaier, 1 of them right here at Mid-Ohio 2018, but it's not going to happen for him today.
You know, I talked about this before the stage break. Allmendinger and Cindric staying out, the penalty wasn't as big as what we could have seen. As you know, if you had 15 or 20 cars stay out, both those guys up in the top 6 right now, in pretty good position, only 2 or 3 seconds behind Ty Gibbs, who's leading this. So I think they're still in pretty good position for this stage.
You know, the one advantage they had though, Michael, is when you're up front like that with pit road closing at 2 to go, most teams had to make that decision a little earlier than they would have, so they could monitor what Jamie's talking about, see what everybody else is doing, and know if it's worth it to stay out and get the points.
Just an update on Allgaier. That looked like a rear gear or a transmission issue. They were up on the jack stands and under the back of the car, so that's probably nothing wrong under the hood, but a driveline issue. But Jamie, you talked about it earlier. Cindric slow on Lally. Is Eddie going to slide high?
Yeah, he tried to block him there and then kind of opened the door up a little bit, knowing he was going to be there.
Well, when you try to block a guy with that big of a run, the next thing that's coming is the bumper.
Yeah, Austin's going to be super aggressive through these S's, kind of letting Andy know that he didn't appreciate the block down, and he's really tight, just so you know.
Yeah, and it's going to be tighter if you don't roll over on him, because that was a pretty aggressive block.
You can see Andy on a little bit older tire blocking up that inside tire on some of those braking zones.
It's funny you talk about the aggression, Jamie, because I feel like everybody has been somewhat on the unaggressive side today, given the length of this race and how tight it is. We say it's the short track of road courses, and everybody, for the most part, outside of a couple of incidents getting off track in turn 1, has been fairly unaggressive until now. Here comes Cindric again working over Andy Lally.
Yeah, and Cindric's going to want to get a good run off of this corner and try to outbrake Andy down into the keyhole. Now Andy is in the preferred line on the inside, just a little bit better. As you see, Justin Haley's going to try to make it 3 wide. Oh,
how about that?
Quick.
Austin Cindric said, "What the heck just happened?" He didn't know there were 3 wide on the inside of him. Haley probably felt the same way.
Haley tried to take a page out of his teammate's book. AJ Allmendinger go 2 for 1. And speaking of Allmendinger, here's the 16 flashing by Myatt Schneider in the 2.
You know, we haven't talked a lot about Myatt, but he was over in Europe and did a lot of road racing a few years ago. So he's really good road racer. Not surprised to see him up front here.
Watch this move. Cindric to the outside of Lally. and they deep into the corner, and watch what happens to them as they get there.
Well, and part of the reason that happened is that Austin Cindric tried to get to the inside of Andy Lally going into turn 1, and that messed up the run that both of those cars had on the exit of turn 2, and it gave Justin Haley the opportunity to try to get both of them in one corner.
That was cool.
How much of a move like that is planned and manufactured versus you're getting down into turn 2 and you just make it up as you go?
You make it up as you go. You, like Jamie said, the run off turn 2 got those guys momentum lost a little bit, and Haley just saw an opportunity. He said, I'm going to pounce. Here comes Cindric.
What's going on with that 7 car, Vince?
Well, it's a mad scramble around the right rear of Justin Allgaier's car. It's a right rear seal. They're trying to get it fixed so he can get back out. But what they initially diagnosed when Allgaier pulled away on his pit stop sequence, they noticed fluid in the pit box. So they actually called him in without Justin realizing there was something wrong with the car. They called him in because they knew there was an issue, and then once they got under it, they saw the significance of it.
Well, it's been a tough day for junior motorsports, right? Noah Gregson wrecks out opening lap. This issue with Justin Allgaier. Miguel Paludo at one point got into the sand. He has recovered, got the free pass back on the lead lap. But across the board, they've had some tough times today at Mid-Ohio.
I believe that's gravel, Adam. I believe
Gravel?
it's a gravel track.
Sand,
yes,
gravel, kitty litter, whatever you want.
Kitty litter.
Thanks for correcting me live on the air instead of waiting till we got to the commercial break. You're a TV Jim, you know that. Ty Gibbs leading the race. The action hot and heavy at Mid-Ohio. While we were away, you saw Josh Berry off track in the 31. He was able to avoid the gravel, right, Jamie, and get back on track. And saw some good racing there as well. Myatt Snyder, Jeb Burton going at it. Brandon Jones right in the mix.
Yeah, Jeb Burton's been really good into turn 2 on the restarts. He's been able to outbreak a lot of cars, make up a lot of ground. And you mentioned earlier, the call-up cars have been pretty fast today.
I think these guys have to give a lot of credit. As we watch the replay here, as Burton out dives Snyder, but then takes the whole road away from him. Myatt's like, hey man, I gave you room. What about me? But what do you think when you got a guy, accomplished road racer like AJ Allmendinger, it just helps the whole organization.
Well, yeah, and they've talked about that for years. When AJ first came over, he talked. He said, look, our cars are not good right now. And he and Chris Rice, everybody at Colleague Racing, has worked really hard to develop a good road racing program. and we're seeing that pay off today because all of those cars are quick.
What's crazy is last summer when you thought of Colleague, you thought of them on the super speedways, right? Because of all their success at Daytona and Talladega. A.J. Allmendinger comes over. We said now they're a great road racing organization, and ironically enough, 2 of A.J.'s 4 wins driving for Matt Colleague have come at 1.5-mile track, so he can do it anywhere. Let's get an update from Vince.
Well, that 54 car of Ty Gibbs, very comfortable, and it's not unusual at all for us to see it up front, right? Especially at the road courses. The 54 is 2 for 2 on the road courses this season. There's Chris Gale, the crew chief, on the right-hand side of the screen. I asked Chris about the 18-year-old driver, Gibbs. I said, what do you think? He said, we're still trying to figure him out. He said, this is just our 7th race together. He said, you know, I've learned a lot of guys can go fast, but he definitely has a fearlessness about making the pass and doing it efficiently. And he knows how to tailor that aggressiveness. He is just 18, but he said, I'd certainly like to have that kind of driver at 18 running for the top 5 in wins versus learning by running 25th. Can understand that, Jamie.
Alex LeBay just moved up to the 12th position on that last lap. He started this race in the 16th position. He said, in order to get to that top 10, I'm going to need this car to turn better. So on that last round of pit stops, crew chief Mario Gosselin made the decision to go up on the rear tire pressures as well as the track bar just to give him a little bit of better turn. Seems to be working. He's making those moves now, guys.
This is fun to watch, too. Nobody gives more than Mario Gosselin and that whole organization. And then seeing Alex being able to show his skills on the road courses, that's fun.
Well, all 3 of Mario's cars in the top 20 right now. You got Preston Pardis back there, 17th. Josh Williams, I know one of your good buddies, in 18th, Michael. It's fun to watch them have success. LeBay trying to get another spot as he dives inside of Ryan Sieg. That's for 11th on track.
Well, that was a nice move, huh, Jamie? He just waited late, but then out-broke the other guy he was racing. Is that how you say it? Broke or break?
I think you did a good job there.
Anyway, he got in the corner faster.
Michael, we let you say whatever you want to say. There are no rules.
Yeah, no rules for you, Michael.
Michael Annette's going to have to give a little room if he doesn't want to get hit by Brett Moffitt. Moffitt into the top 15 in that 02 car. Looks like he's faster than the guys ahead of him. And speaking of that, it's interesting watching the 2 leaders with their lap times. They're matching each other's times. And early in the race, Gibbs couldn't keep up with Allmendinger. Now it looks like he might be getting the best of them.
Yeah, we kind of know who our 3 best cars are. We're not shocked by any of those with Ty Gibbs, A.J. Allmendinger, and Austin Cindric. But I'm really impressed with Gibbs on this run because I feel like he spent that first stage kind of learning. They did the strategy they needed to get the lead, and now he's able to maintain the lead. He and AJ kind of matching times. Kind of depends on how they catch lap traffic, but Ty Gibbs, again, doing an amazing job.
But let's face it, the way he got the lead was through strategy. That's how he leapfrogged Allmendinger and Cindric. How do you play the strategy at the end of stage 2 if you're the 16 and the 22? Do things different here?
I think they're going to kind of, I think the 54 and the 22, the 16 are all going to kind of watch each other because that's the race, and they know they need to all stay near each other. So I think they're going to kind of react off what the other does.
I'm going to guess they're all going to go for the win at the end. So they're going to give up the second stage would be my prediction.
We will wait and see, and likely won't know for another 6, 7, 8 laps. Jamie Howe.
As we see Brett Moffitt in that 02 machine still on track. He said their focus right now is going to be more on track position with the stages being equal lengths than the tire wear, which what we were expecting to hear more of. He thinks that track position is going to be pretty important. A top 5 result, he said, would be great for this organization. It'd be wonderful for him as well, seeing that he had never been here to Mid-Ohio before the race today, but they had been struggling with an issue in their braking system. They figured it out at COTA. It just wasn't hard enough. He said it was putting too much force in, not getting enough out of it. They worked on that back at the shop. Seems like they may have come up to something because he is able to use those brakes today.
It's funny, Jamie, that you said that about Brett not seeing that place. I called him this morning, Adam, and he's like, hi, Mike. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm sitting in the infield of this place that I've never seen before, just trying to figure it out. He sounded like Barbecue Bob. He has an alter ego as well. Follow him on Instagram to see what I mean.
But there are so many drivers in this field that, because we didn't race here last year, had never been to Mid-Ohio. I've got to believe that can be intimidating when you're racing at a track that you've never seen, and the first time you get an opportunity to go around is when the green flag goes in the air.
And then the result in the first turn, you see a guy that tears his car all to pieces. That'll get your attention.
Yes.
You know, guys, going back to the leaders, Ty Gibbs and AJ Allmendinger, Gibbs did pit, 2 or 3 laps earlier, so a few more laps on his tires than what AJ has, and it seems like he's kind of hit that point where the lap times are starting to fall off. AJ's been able to hold on maybe about 3 or 4 tenths a lap quicker the last 2 laps, so be interesting to see if AJ's car maintains or if he kind of starts to fall off lap time wise as well. We saw at the end of that first stage, he was incredibly fast, by far the best car on the track.
Oh, trouble for Jeremy Clements.
And we saw him slowing, and I couldn't tell if it just got away from him in the corner or if truly he had a problem, but it's obvious now that he is slowed. The 51 with a problem, middle stages of stage 2, Jamie.
It's an electrical issue. The ignition keeps cutting out. Jeremy telling the crew it won't even stay on. His crew chief radioed back and said, we'll be ready for you if you decide to come in, but you make that call.
Vince?
Well, and Jamie, add on to something Jamie McMurray was saying just a moment ago about AJ Allmendinger being a little bit quicker than Ty Gibbs. And just before Jamie had mentioned that, they came on the radio and told Ty, the only one quicker than you is the 16. And he's getting a little better through turn 4 than you are. See if you can use the curbs a little bit more to help you get off that turn. So keep an eye on the 54 and what he does in turn 4. Does he get on those curbs a little bit more? They seem to think that's helping Allmendinger get through there and get a little more speed.
Well, the answer is yes. We popped over the curb there, but you know what I'm thankful for if I'm Ty Gibbs? He said turn 4. I know that one. You talk about he's better than 7 or 8. Those all start to run together on me. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, and part of the reason that you use more curb at a track like this is because it'll help the front turn. We've heard a lot of guys complain about getting the front of the car to turn. You see them clipping the inside curb on most of those corners, and typically that just helps the car turn a little bit better. But Michael, what I'm seeing is that AJ's car just looks like it doesn't give up as much as Ty's is right now.
AJ, there's the caution flag. Just to elaborate on AJ's setup, he told me that a lot of road courses, you think about forward bite, Adam, coming off the corner, not spinning your tires. He said this place, with all the twists and turns up through the exit, it's all about lateral grip, making sure the car turns left and right and not worry so much about forward traction.
We could tell with Jeremy earlier where they reported that he was having an electrical issue and it was like it wouldn't run, and then all of a sudden it would take off. And I know we've waited the whole show to do this.
Here we go. Let's do it.
This is Jamie McMurray to Jamie Howe.
Nicely done. He's much better than what Jeremy Clements is going through right now. He was trying to get it to stay fired. They were having him just wiggle that ignition switch up and down a little bit. It eventually just shut off, and now it died. They're going to have to push him back to pit lane. His crew chief said that they're going to go ahead and take up their time. They're going to take that 5 minutes they're allowed to work on the car in pit lane, check every connection that they can get to before they make the call to end this race, go back to the garage area. But it's certainly not a good way to go into stage 3.
9 to go in our second stage, and we believed in another 4 or 5 laps we would start to see some guys making scheduled stops in accordance with their strategy. So what do we think's gonna happen here? How do you handle this with this yellow coming late in the stage?
I hate speculating as well, but if you look at the last 4 or 5 years, lap 42 is when they have pitted to try to make it to the end so they can make it on fuel. I think we're going to see guys pit right now, most likely put their fuel in and then come back at the stage break and put tires on.
I agree.
That's exactly what I thought you'd say.
I've talked to several crew chiefs, and I'm looking at that.
How many crew chiefs have you talked to, Mike?
At least a handful. A smaller handful.
Well, you're definitely right there on the edge of your window to be able to go the rest of the way on fuel if you were to pit now. And like you said, you can come get tires because we're under caution. That's totally a part of the game. Either way, you probably want to make one of your stops here and then do the other at the stage break.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna do one or the other. If they can make it on fuel, I would put my fuel in now because I want those 3 or 4 laps, 5 laps, fresher tires for the next stage. We just talked about Ty Gibbs falling off a little bit. So if I can make it on fuel, and only those crew chiefs know that, that's what I'm gonna do right now.
But a lot of times on a road course, even if you can't make it, you go ahead and pit outside of your window because you know you're going to get caution laps, and when the track is this big under caution, you're just going to save that much more fuel. So I think they come now.
Sometimes strategy can make my head hurt, and I got to tell you, this is one of those times.
It is.
Where I'd just rather sit back and watch what they do instead of try to figure it out, because there is a whole lot going on many potential scenarios that could play out here.
I just love this battle we have for the win. Lap times so comparable between the top three. Can someone use some strategy to break up this trio? That'll be another question.
Gibbs is leading. Allmendinger won the opening stage. He's second. Cindric, Hemrick, Haley the top 5, and the only one of that group pitting here is Austin Cindric. Now, we had gotten word he wanted to pit with 3 to go in the stage. That was the strategy they were thinking of playing out here. In stage 2, they come under caution with 8 remaining. Vince?
Down the pit lane. He's going to pit early.
Well, and for Austin Cindric, it has been a very smooth race so far, just unfolding exactly the way they anticipated it would, maybe other than the fact that he hasn't led every single lap as they would have hoped. But it is a fuel stop only here. Clean the grill, just a little bit of debris on the front, got plenty of time, and then look for him to come back and get tires at the end of this stage.
You could put tires here because we're under caution. They elect to go with fuel, and as Vince said, they'll get their tires at the end of the stage. And we'll have the end of the stage when we come back to Mid-Ohio. Going to be 7 laps to go in stage 2 from Mid-Ohio for the NASCAR Xfinity Series when we return to the green flag. Ty Gibbs is leading. A.J. Allmendinger is second. Daniel Hemrick, Justin Haley, Jeff Burton, the top 5. Got Brandon Jones up there, Andy Lowley, Riley Herbst, Alex LeBay, Brett Moffitt, all enjoying good runs. The guy we're going to watch on this restart and over the next few laps, Austin Cindric, who came down and got fuel under this caution.
Yeah, I believe his strategy, the fuel is close, but with the caution flaps for the stage break, I believe his strategy will put him in the lead. Let's just say that it should put him in the lead when we're done with the pit stops at the stage end. Maybe he can grab some stage points too, Adam. He's not too far out of the top 10.
Front row, Gibbs and Allmendinger.
A great restart by Ty Gibbs. Was able to launch and get in front of AJ. He's going to hope that Hemrick can hold him up just a little bit on the exit of 2 here. and he's going to have to defend when they get down to the keyhole, because you know that AJ is going to be super aggressive driving down in here.
Another super aggressive driver is Justin Haley in the 11, and here comes AJ and Haley to the inside. Nice job by both those drivers using the bottom of the racetrack to try to get around. In AJ's case, he made it around Gibbs, and here's Haley pushing to do so as well.
Yeah, I was shocked that Ty didn't block a little bit more on AJ, kind of to the inside. It looked like he thought about it, but then didn't get quite low enough.
I was going to ask you guys on that last run, how much is Ty continuing to learn with his limited experience at this track and in these cars? And I think the answer now is he's learning every time we go green, because he's under attack, and right now, right behind him, his teammates Brandon Jones, Daniel Hemrick.
Yeah, and the one thing about Ty, I mean, making his 7th start, he's aggressive. He's not intimidated by anybody that he races with. You think about last week at Charlotte with Chase Briscoe, he raced super aggressive, and that's part of what has put him in the position that he's been in to be able to win 2 of these races this year.
And I bet you he's not surprised any lap, Adam, about how tough the competition is. You know, he knows how good he is, but he sees these guys that are able to put moves on him that he's thinking to himself, man, I would have made that move. That was pretty cool. He's learning, and he's also doing it very respectfully the way he races guys.
But I would say this too, his success has got to motivate his teammates, right? I mean, if you're Brandon Jones, Daniel Hemrick, Harrison Burton, you say, I want some of that, and right now it is Jones right behind him on track in 4th as Allmendinger leads.
What about Joe Gibbs Racing? Those couple of cars right up front, but I'll continue to harp on Colleague Racing. Jeb Burton now into the top 5. You can see him there racing alongside Cindric.
Cindric's done a good job too here. He got a little bit back in traffic. Looks like his nose has been kept clean. He's keeping himself in a position to be able to win this race.
That's Chris Wright. Nice job by that team. Started in the back, and he's raced his way all the way up to 12th position.
You see in our map, top right, where Cindric is in relation to leader A.J. Allmendinger. And that's significant because as we get down to 5, 4, maybe 3 laps to go in the stage, and we anticipate a lot of these guys up front are going to pit under green to get their fuel. That's their strategy play. Cindric might be in position to win the stage, come back, get his tires under caution, and cycle out as the race leader for the final stage. I mean, this could be incredible strategy for Brian Wilson and this team.
Well, Brian Wilson is an incredible strategist, but I'll tell you this, as Chris Wright goes off-road racing, I don't think every car, some guys are going to stay out and try to win this stage, so I don't think the 22 necessarily wins the stage, but nevertheless, he's going to wind up with the lead when this is all said and done.
Yeah, and you know, Adam, you said something earlier about Ty Gibbs maybe motivating those other drivers. Without a doubt, when the new guy comes in, who's the rookie, is able to win, that definitely puts pressure on everybody else to get to victory lane. And you're happy for your teammate to win, but you want to be you want to be able to beat him as well. And Ty is definitely put some pressure on them.
And you know, to me, if you're Daniel Hemrick, you want that pressure. You know, you want to be the best. You want somebody pushing you. I liken it to Austin Dillon in the Cup Series and his teammate Tyler Reddick. They just push each other to be better. And when you have organizations with teammates like that, that's really a good situation.
Justin Haley continues in 2nd, Jamie Howe.
While you're talking about teammates, what about the Colleague Racing teammates? A.J. Allmendinger leading Justin Haley right now. They're going for these stage points. I just talked to Alec Jans. He said, you know, we'd really like to win it. We're thinking that maybe A.J. is going to come down to get that fuel, but we're not 100% sure. These teams share so much information to the point that those 2 cars are set up nearly identical. But when it comes to what happens on the racetrack, they're holding those decisions close to their chest right now.
Boy, another week, another problem for the 18 of Daniel Hemrick. I mean, it is a broken record for him.
He's over in the S's too. That's a pretty fur piece from pit road. See the damage it does to the car when you tear up one of those Goodyear tires.
Yeah, that'll most likely rip. You see the crush panels barely hanging on there. It finally came out. That does so much damage to that car. The battery is actually located right in front of that. It looks like he is going to make it back to pit road, but there'll be some damage to that car. And honestly, if I'm one of those cars that's thinking about pitting, I'm going to try to get on pit road right now. We might get a caution based on the debris that's coming off of his car.
Chris Wright is on pit road. Saw the 26 getting work there a moment ago, and there's so much debris bouncing off of Hemrick's car. And with 4 to go on the stage, I'm like you, Jamie. I think we could get a caution. He makes it back, but boy, he littered a lot of debris. Here he is, Vince.
Well, this is a heartbreaker for this team because they've had back-to-back subpar finishes of 29th and 28th, and they have certainly been much better than those results would indicate, and that's certainly the situation they're facing again today. They were running well, but they're not going to get that finish because of the fact that they have suffered some pretty significant damage to that left rear. By the way, the crew chief, Dave Rogers, pulling triple duty. He's not only holding, there is a good look at him, bringing the hose back, helping with the tires, also holding the pit sign when Hemrick came in, plus crew chiefing as well and having to evaluate that damage. Now you see the 16 of A.J. Allmendinger has come in. This is per strategy. They want to come in and get that fuel only and then go back out, come back and get those tires at the end of the stage. The 54 right behind him in that black car. By the way, notice no sponsorship on that 54. I got to believe there's some companies around the country that are clamoring to get on that car. I wouldn't expect to see it blank for long with the ability that Ty Gibbs has shown. Jamie Howe.
So everybody coming here under green to get fuel. You can't get tires if you make a green flag pit stop, with the exception of the case that we saw with Daniel Hemrick, where you have a problem. They obviously were dealing with a tire issue. In those circumstances, NASCAR will allow you to come down and get tires. And, you know, we saw extended stops for those teams, but keep in mind, when you pit under green, you have to be on the pit lane a minimum of 50 seconds. So a maximum time under caution, a minimum time under green, and perhaps that's the reason we saw those cars there for so long.
Yeah, and they have that calculated out. You could actually see somebody while A.J. Allmendinger was in his pit stall holding up his finger, telling A.J. not to go. They know from their pit stall to the end of pit road how long that time is going to be, and they try to time that out, you know, within a second or two.
And we'll keep an eye, and NASCAR's got to watch on it as well. And as I talk to these teams, you know, they all had someone designated to keep track of those times, and it's all cycled through here. With 2 to go in the stage, we're going to close pit road. Justin Haley stays out. Brandon Jones, Jeff Burton do the same. Riley Herbst, who needs points, and Austin Cindric, who's already made the 1 pit stop in this cycle, is 5th right now.
And, you know, I love the strategy and the way these guys split things around a bit, because 6, Alex LeBay, we've talked about him. 7th, Jade Buford up into the mix. Brandon Brown back into the top 10. So guys are using this strategy to try to put themselves in the best position to get the best finish they can. And for some of these teams battling for different positions in the points, these points are crucial.
You know, one of the things that we heard him talk about earlier is that Kaulig Racing shares everything. The cars, the setups are identical. But then when it gets down to like racing, all of a sudden, when it goes for the win, you don't share everything. And I feel like we've kind of seen a little bit of that maybe on the Cup side with Hendrick Motorsports, right? They share everything until it comes time for a win. Then it becomes just a little bit more competitive.
Hey, we're talking about Kaulig, and bad news for A.J. Allmendinger. We discussed staying on pit road, and was everybody there long enough? Was somebody there too long? Could they have been quicker? A.J. Allmendinger failed to stay there for the 50 seconds. So with that, after the caution comes out, he'll start at the rear for the final stage.
That's going to make it hard. It's going to make it really hard. 25 laps for him to be able to get back to the front.
And really less than 25, right? After everything cycles through, you're 22, 23 laps.
If anybody can do it, A.J. Allmendinger can. That's for sure. It'd be fun to watch.
He's going to say he's going to put on a show, right, Michael?
That's exactly right. You know he will, and he's got to be frustrated because that's just a stopwatch. We have to make sure we get that right.
Well, it wasn't that close. He was about 3 seconds off on his time, so had to be there for 50 seconds from yellow line to yellow line. He was actually at 47 seconds. So they miscalculated that, and I saw somebody holding their finger up telling AJ, you know, when to go, and that's so frustrating because he was in position to win this race, and it's going to be a big challenge for him now.
I was discussing this very scenario with Chris Gale, the crew chief for Ty Gibbs, and I asked him what his job was during a pit stop, and he said, I control the stopwatch. And I kind of teased him about that, and he said, don't laugh.
Right.
It's a very important job in this format.
Well, you need to err on the margin of safety and go 51 seconds. Good example of that, to how well they had it calculated. Ty Gibbs' team put him on pit road for 50.62 seconds.
Wow.
Just 0.6 of a second to the good. AJ went down and off in 47, like you said, Jamie, so you just can't make that mistake.
Colleague going to sweep the stages. Stage 1 goes to A.J. Allmendinger. Stage 2 to teammate Justin Haley. Brandon Jones is second. Jeff Burton third. Riley Herbst, Austin Cindric complete the top 5. A good day for Haley at Mid-Ohio as he takes stage 2.
Yeah.
We've reached the final stage at Mid-Ohio for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and here are the drivers that have taken advantage when it comes to stage points. Justin Haley wins the second stage, had a good opening stage as well. To me, the real story here is Austin Cindric. The way they have played the strategy game, scoring 15 points. Doesn't win a stage today, but he's really going to set himself up nicely for the stretch run.
They have had the best balance of getting the most stage points and going to be in a great position, but not knowing how many cautions we're going to have in the final stage, Michael, I think that might be just a little stressful for the crew chief on, are they going to make it on gas or not?
Well, Brian Wilson is really smart, and he said already, told Vince, we're going to be close, but I think they've got this all figured out. And I know I called Brian Wilson Brian Williams earlier.
I didn't catch it.
I didn't either.
And one of my best buddies is Brian Williams, so I get a pass on that one.
And here, let me tell you, Brian Wilson, really nice guy. I'm sure he'll forgive you.
One thing that makes me feel good though is we could just hear the in car of Austin Cindric. He's not shutting the engine off, which makes me think they must have plenty of fuel, right? Or you'd be shutting that off, because we normally do that anyway to try to cool the engines down.
But it's a bit of a risky game shutting that engine off. Just ask Marcus Ambrose, as he did that one day in the Cup race out at Sonoma.
Sometimes it doesn't start back up.
Now this is battling for a spot inside of the top 10 for that stage point. Brandon Brown said, I need it worse than you, Jade. Excuse me.
Well, he left the door open, Michael.
He did.
Yeah. I don't know if he really said, I need it worse than you do, but based on where he is in the standings, he does, actually.
He cracked the door. How about that?
But hey, give credit where credit's due. Brown having a good day, and Buford also having a good day in the top 15.
Yeah, there's so many great stories. I know the pit strategy is a little bit confusing. The reason why pit strategy is in place is to save these teams money. I mean, it's hard to make ends meet in the Xfinity Series, and with the regular crews out on the West Coast, it just doesn't work that well. So NASCAR steps in, as you see, another problem for the 51. But I want to make this clear. The smart teams are going to use whatever strategy or whatever plays there are to their advantage. And the thing that's cool about these rules is that it's mixing things up. Look at our top 10. I mean, you got Haley, who's great. He won this stage. But LeBay's up there. Matt Schneider with a good run. Brandon Brown. So Ryan Ellis in the top 10. It gives these guys a chance to get up front and see what it's like to be there, some of them.
They put a new battery in Jeremy Clement's car earlier. He had that electrical issue, thinking that might fix it. But apparently that was not the problem. Electrical issues, those are demons. It's really hard to find until you get back to the shop and kind of can take everything out of the car and examine it.
So as we await pit road to open, we remind you of this. The impact of the pandemic on youth sports has been significant. And while recovery has started in some communities, kids most in need are still on the sidelines. Visit goodsports.org to learn how you can help Fox Sports and Good Sports restore play for at-risk youth and the programs that serve them through donations of brand new sports equipment. And that takes me to free pass. Under this, our fifth caution of the day goes to Jesse Little, scored in 31st, driving the 78 for BJ McLeod. And he's got support from Shriners Hospital on his car this weekend, promoting them. And he spent some time with the Shriners this week. So we thank Jesse for that, doing so many good things for the community and using his platform to give back. And as you look back at 2021, I mean, the last 6 races, we've had 6 different winners. 4 times a driver has picked up their first career victory this season. Jeb Burton, Josh Berry, Myatt Snyder. We've talked about Ty Gibbs. And road courses are where it's at. 7 of them this season. It's incredible.
Yeah, and we talked about Austin Cindric and his team, his crew chief, Brian Wilson. 5 wins on the road courses. So you have to really think that he's going to be able to be a bit of a difference maker through this stretch of road racing. And I love it, man. These are fun races for me.
One of my favorite parts of the Xfinity Series is getting to see those first wins, whether it's Ty Gibbs being emotional at the infield Daytona road course or Jeb Burton at Talladega. Like, those are memories that I feel like, as you know, as a fan, that they just, you remember those forever.
And I know you've got to remember your first Xfinity win. It had to be really special to you.
Well, you know, I led the whole race, Michael.
Tell me the rest of the story, because I've only heard it 1,000 times.
Michael might have wrecked Jeff Green on the last lap, and it allowed me to go on and win that day.
Just to be clear, I was dominant, and Jeff Green cut me off.
Oh, is that what it was?
And
yeah.
we spun. And
that's what Jay Buford said just a second ago.
Jamie hadn't led a lap all day. I didn't even sniff the lead.
Jeff Green, who won the championship in 2000.
Yes.
Who is also from Owensboro, Kentucky, just like you, and recently announced his retirement from NASCAR, but he loves it so much he's back on the spotter stand today, right?
I texted him this morning and I said, I thought you retired. He said, I did. I'm just not very good at it. I think that's the way NASCAR is. You might want to step away, but as soon as you're out the door, you want back in it. Just being a part of this sport, it's just so special. It's all Jeff Green, me, Jamie. A lot of us have done our whole life.
Pit road is open and the leaders are in. Let's go to Jamie Howe.
Justin Haley, one of the cars that will be making his way into the box, still struggling with it being a little tight. He said, our off drive is good, but we just need a little bit more of that front turn. So his crew chief, Alec Jan's, making the decision. They're going to put some wedge in and make an air pressure adjustment just to help him turn. Justin's other complaint was that it is so hot. He said, I need some water, not just 1 bottle. I need 2 plastic water bottles, Vince.
Well, the 19 of Brandon Jones is in. He pitted from second after that stage. This season been a roller coaster, several strong runs, but also 4 DNFs and 5 finishes of 33rd or worse. That's why he was only 23 points above the cut line entering today. So they need a good run in that 19. It's a little loose on entry, tight on center. The 10 of Jeff Burton, loose also, finished 3rd in that stage, finished 5th and 10th in the 2 road course races this season. And as a teammate of A.J. Allmendinger, really felt like this was going to be an opportunity race for them. He's faring better than A.J. because A.J. got the penalty, and believe me, the team warned Jeff Burton coming to pit road, do not speed, no penalties.
And one other thought here, the 39 of Ryan Sieg elects to stay out, and I don't want to begin to anticipate what their game plan is or how they're going to manage strategy, but they did stay out here. And as I understand the rule book, if you don't pit the first time down, if you do come back and pit the second time around when pit road is open under these scenarios, you will be penalized. So this is their play.
It's interesting to see that they stayed out because they've done this a couple of times this year, and it has not worked out for this team at all. Last week at Charlotte.
That's what I was going to say, as recently as last week.
Yeah, just not worked out for them.
We'll reset the running order when we come back. The final stage on the way from Mid-Ohio.
In the middle of the heartland, a true test awaits.
Here we go.
Have some fun here.
A battle between speed and precision.
You didn't think it was going to be easy, did you?
Where one wrong move can ruin your day.
Big hit. Unbelievable.
What was that? What an idiot.
It's road course racing at its finest. And it starts now.
All set and ready to go. Final stage for the Xfinity Series from Lexington, Ohio. And what a gorgeous Saturday afternoon it is, and plenty of entertainment in stage 1 and stage 2. And there goes the dreaded drop to the rear for A.J. Allmendinger, penalized when they made a green flag pit stop and didn't stay on pit road long enough because of the unique pit rules we have this weekend. It's going to be a long climb back to the front for driver 16. Vince?
Well, and one of those dignitaries, if you will, in the 16 pit box is Mike Shank, the owner of the Indianapolis 500 winning team, car driven by Helio Castroneves, here supporting his friend A.J. Allmendinger. First of all, Mike, what was it like to win the Indy 500?
Surreal. Still haven't recovered from it. So much appreciation for all the love we have the last week or so. We're still on a high. AutoNation, Sirius XM, and Honda, along with Helio, is a 4-time champion now, and that's history. It's American history.
Why come here, and what is it about supporting your friend A.J. Allmendinger? Why is that important?
You know, A.J. and I, he's driven for me for 15 years at the Rolex. We've become very, very close. we come to support each other every time we can. And for me, it's really just about helping, just being here for them. I'm not doing anything, but Matt Collick and Chris Rice and those guys took good care of me today, and I'm happy to be here to support him. He's doing a hell of a job. Clearly the best out there. Now it's going to get interesting. This penalty is going to put him behind a little bit, but I'm telling you, go from 30th, he can get to the front, and that's why we're here.
He's going to make it exciting, that's for sure. Congratulations again, Mike. Great to see you.
I love the optimism.
I do too. I
can't wait to watch it.
Also, I love the anticipation.
I do too.
I cannot wait to see what this is like with AJ ripping through the field. And just to be clear, this isn't on AJ. This is a team thing. A lot of times if you think about speeding on pit road or having a problem on pit road, it's sometimes a driver's problem. This is not the case.
Well, and we talked about this in the opening when we broke down the racetrack. Turn 2, when it gets to these late race restarts, is going to be chaotic, and there's probably going to be some carnage there. So AJ being in the back is going to want to get all he can in those first couple of laps, but he's also going to have to be really careful, I think, in the keyhole.
Resetting how we got where we are. We talked about Ryan Sieg going to break. Okay, they pitted under that caution when Cindric pitted. They got their tires there at lap 42. Came back under green, got fuel at lap 44. So they don't pit under this caution to end the second stage. That's how they've got the lead. And up front with him, the guy that's played the strategy perfectly today, Austin Cindric. 20 to go as we begin the final stage at Mid-Ohio.
When you look in the back, you'll see a car 3 and 4 wide pretty much anytime we glance back that way. That's AJ Allmendinger. Realistically, Jamie, how far can he get? Can he get up to win this race, or is that a stretch?
I think it depends how many cautions we get, because the cautions bunch the cars up. You're able to get quite a few more, as they're bunched up.
Hey, another guy to watch here, Ty Gibbs in that black Toyota. Scored an 8th right now, but because of the way the strategy cycled, he too lost track position in this exchange. He's going to try to make his way back to the front as Myatt Snyder hops out of line.
Yeah, if you're Ryan Sieg, you got to know you're going to get dive bombed every corner. You got to do your best to be aggressive, but also defensive. And right behind Snyder is Landon Castle up in that 6 car up inside the top 10. Ryan Ellis as well in the 99.
Michael Annette, talk about him doing positive things in second. They need a good day, right? I mean, they came in on the playoff bubble. If he can make something happen here, get a top 5 finish, something he typically struggles to do on road courses, it could pay huge dividends for them down the road. On board with Justin Haley, our Stage 2 winner.
Looking up at my buddy Josh Williams in that 92. Thanks, our troops.
Yeah, right here, Justin Haley's going to try to get back to the right and get as good of a run as he can on this front stretch to try to get by. Now, he did not get a good run there, so then you kind of reset. Now it's all about getting through turn 1, getting a good exit on this corner so you can then try to outbrake him down into the keyhole.
Williams is doing a nice job holding that position.
He is, a really good job, yeah.
Looked like that car had a lot of grip up off the corner, really bouncing, but yet sticking as he exits. Here comes Ty Gibbs. What about Miguel Paludo resurfacing up toward the front after being caught in the sand?
Well, just in front of Gibbs, as one car went off track, Brett Moffitt in the 02, having a productive day, up to 8th. He talked a lot about our motorsports today. Andy Lowley, Brett Moffitt.
Moffitt dives inside of Landon Castle to make their way to 4. Off of there into the S's. Back and forth these drivers will go.
As we see Landon Castle up there, want to send well wishes to everybody at JD Motorsports. Our condolences. Ryan Lear passed away. I know a big part of their organization. So seeing Landon up there, a really good thing. Johnny Davis, such an unbelievable asset to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Heavy hearts for everyone in their organization. So we're thinking about them.
You know, Michael, we talked about that exit of 4 over to Thunder Valley not being a very good passing zone, but Ty Gibbs actually was able to get by both Ryan Ellis and I believe Landon Castle right there.
There's the 22 of Cindric and the 16 of AJ Allmendinger. And the thing that doesn't look too bad about that, Jamie, doesn't look that far behind. It's
just
the
a lot of cars.
There's the other 20 cars that are
yeah.
between them that has got his attention.
I was going to ask you guys about that. If you're AJ, what's the balance in this final run of the race of green flag versus caution? Because I got to believe at some point you want a caution to bunch everybody up, right? So you want some green to get some positions and then some caution flags. But what's the balance on that as he has now worked his way to 17?
Well, the AJ strong suit all day long has kind of been the long run. And so part of you says, well, he wants to have a longer run. The thing is, the field gets so stretched out that you just can't capitalize as much. He's going to need, I think, 2 or 3 restarts in order to be able to get back up there. And I mean, Mike, I liked Michael Shank's optimism. I think that was a tall feat to go from 30th in the amount of laps that he had, especially knowing that you got quite a few good cars up in there. I mean, obviously, Ty Gibbs, Austin Cindric have been 2 of the better cars all day long, and they're still in pretty good position.
And you know, Adam, the tough part is when you have those cautions, it just seems like it takes forever for NASCAR to get things cleaned up.
It does. It takes all day. So it's so true.
And it even feels longer when you're fighting back from a penalty like A.J. Allmendinger is. It gets really frustrating. You're like, we got to go racing, boys.
Well, I just go back to what Jamie said, though. I mean, you pick off the first 15 or 16, you get all that momentum, and then you kind of hit a wall just because you're racing drivers that are in much better race cars, much more level when it comes to the competition that you're trying to pass.
Well, he needs about 1 a lap, and that's probably a stretch to think that could happen, but that's his goal, 1 a lap.
17 laps to go in Mid-Ohio. Cindric leading this thing. Annette, Sieg, Snyder, Moffitt, Gibbs, the top 6. I love a little side-by-side on FS1 because you miss nothing. And boy, there's been a whole lot going on in this race. Myatt Snyder, Ty Gibbs, the wrestling match continues.
It's such good racing, and Cindric actually told me that this was kind of the short track of a road course, and when you watch that, there's a lot of contact, as they go through the S's.
Yeah, it's everywhere, and it's only going to get worse. These drivers see the laps winding down. Not only A.J. Allmendinger, but guys like Justin Haley on Miguel Paludo here. They know it's go time, and a lot of times when it's go time, the respect and the give and take, it's gone. You just have to be aggressive, and you're going to see that. We're going to see a spin here before long with someone trying to take a spot that the other racer like this. How about that was an opportunity, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, we talked about how good the Call-It cars are and how we felt like AJ has kind of helped that program. Great battle there with Ty Gibbs and Ryan Sieg. The thing that the Call-It cars are really good at is braking. We've watched it with Jeff Burton. We saw it with Justin Haley. Obviously, AJ is always good at braking, but it seems to me like that's where they have improved the most over the competition.
Preston Pardis off track in the 90. Will he get going? Or
AJ Allmendinger wants a caution.
A caution,
right
yes,
now.
He does.
What about Brett Moffitt? He gets inside of Snyder now. He's going to go to work on Sieg.
Moffitt has been great since his restart line.
Up in the top 5, slides a tire there. Sieg tries to take advantage. Wow, what great action.
Hey, and Sieg, who's not known for his road racing ability, they play this strategy as crew chief Shane Wilson, and he's hanging on up there in the top 5, 4th right now.
You got to appreciate a team like that taking a gamble. You know they don't have the sheer speed to go win this race, but with an
overshot the corner just a little bit.
With a creative call like Shane Wilson made, and then taking advantage of that, they're doing just that right now. And here comes AJ.
I tell you what, they're beating Mike Snyder to death. He can't get going straight before the next car gets on him right now.
Well, and they're kind of teammates when you look at Colleague and RCR, right? So, I mean, this is a little bit all in-house. Here's what happened to Preston Pardis.
That wider spot is more grip. Oh, Brandon Jones, looked like he was afraid there was something ahead of that dirt.
Meanwhile, AJ Allmendinger around Miguel Paludo, the 16-7.
It's been an amazing run, but when you look, he's in a pretty good position, but he's 13 seconds behind Austin Cindric right now, who has an 8-second lead, so he's probably not abusing his car at all at this point in the race. I can see AJ right now, though, guys, probably getting the 3rd or 4th, even if we don't have a caution.
But if we have that caution, Adam, it's going to get crazy.
It is, because we might put tires on again. We don't know what the crew chief's strategy is going to be, and if we all come in and reset with tires, it could change everything.
What's up, Vince?
Well, and to that point, if we get a caution with about 10 to go, I would anticipate, from what I'm hearing down here on pit road, guys, to see teams come and put tires on. Allmendinger, of course, a former winner here at Mid-Ohio, won back in 2013. He was 31 at the time. I don't want to say AJ's getting old, but let's just call him a veteran, all right? When he was 31 when he won here, Myatt Snyder was just 18. Noah Gregson just 15. Gregson wasn't even shaven yet. And Riley Herbst, 14 years old. And how about Ty Gibbs? Ty Gibbs was still playing with toys as a 10-year-old, and AJ was winning here at Mid-Ohio at age 31. And now he's out there digging against him, racing. And it's not done yet. If he gets a caution, I wouldn't count out AJ.
You know, it's interesting, Vince brings up the potential of coming for tires should we get a caution here sometime soon. What I wonder is, do you pit because there's 31 drivers on the lead lap, and how much could you gain back? And look what AJ has been able to do here, plus 17 since the restart, and he continues to get more and more.
You know, Jamie, I would absolutely pit. We get a caution, a couple more laps, I'm coming to get tires because they mean so much. They're going to be able to pass. 2 years ago, Austin Cindric came in late after all the other competitors. We thought track position would be king. Austin Cindric drove to the front and won the race.
Well, and on a road course, you want to be on the offense, not on the defense. It's so hard to drive defensively at a road course. We saw it with Myatt Snyder. You just get used up by car after car after car. Hey, going back to that picture of Ty Gibbs, when I did the sit-down interview with him a couple of weeks ago, I asked him, like, who was his hero growing up, like, especially like Joe Gibbs Racing. And I kind of expected him to say like a Tony Stewart or Bobby Labonte, because I remember that era. I thought it was a great time for Joe Gibbs Racing. And I believe he said Kyle or Denny. And I said, I would have thought you just said Bobby or Tony. And he looked at me and he said, I wasn't born when they were winning all those races.
Who's Bobby and Tony, right?
I'm like, oh yeah, didn't think about that, Ty.
What do you have for us, Jamie?
Well, let's go back to Ryan Sieg, that number 39 machine. The last time they were on pit road was lap 44 for fuel. The reason that they made that decision was because they wanted to be out on the racetrack by themselves. That is not played out that way. If you see him up there in the top 10 now with all of the front runners trying to get around him. But what they are able to do is enjoy this race. They were looking forward to it because it's a slower pace road course. They knew that if they were going to have a chance to do well at one of these, it was going to be here at Mid-Ohio. And so they're just taking full advantage of all the opportunity they've been getting today. His dad, his brother, both spotting for him. Very much a family affair for Ryan.
Well, and right now the strategy is a net gain, Jamie, because when the caution came out and they came down pit road to get those tires, then eventually came under green and got their fuel, he was 13th. He's 7th right now, so they're on the positive side of that decision as AJ Allmendinger gets by his teammate Justin Haley, put the 16 in the top 5, and he is 14 seconds behind our race leader, Austin Cindric.
Yeah, and he's only going to need a couple of seconds to catch up with fourth place running Brett Moffitt, so definitely on a roll. A caution.
What a drive AJ's having right now. What a drive he's doing.
You talk about driving angry, getting after it. Allmendinger letting it all hang out.
Pit.
Ten laps to go at Mid-Ohio. Here's our Xfinity fastest lap. Best of the day, Ty Gibbs. Just over 93 miles per hour. Allmendinger's up there. I think Allmendinger runs like the fastest lap every lap
Even
right now.
passing cars, he's running the fastest lap.
He is flying through the field. Austin Cindric pretty good as well as we hit 9 laps remaining. His advantage over second place. 10 seconds. Let's crank it up. Sponsored by Applebee's.
That was fun, huh? We were cranked up. I love Applebee's. That's a great segment for me.
I can see you at Applebee's.
Darn right.
Totally can. We talked about Austin Cindric, you know, being able to take it easy on his tires. The other thing is, we know he's pitted quite a few laps earlier than these guys, and we were kind of wondering about on fuel. Is he going to need some caution laps? But knowing he's got that big of a lead, you can lift earlier going to the corners, you can short shift. There's a lot of things you can do as a driver to try to, you know, manage that fuel just a little bit more. And he's got an 11-second lead right now. It sounded to me like he was doing a little bit of short shifting, Michael, and obviously lifting a little early.
You know what I think's interesting, though? Jamie, he needs to burn one lap off. You know, just maybe run a 87.50 like A.J. Allmendinger does, just so he knows it's in the car. You start conserving fuel and taking it easy, and then all of a sudden you look in your mirror and here comes a guy. That makes you a little bit nervous.
You think they told him about Cody Ware, who spins out here coming toward the start-finish line? I don't think Austin needs to know things like this are happening that could cause a caution.
Yeah, Austin Cindric.
Uh-oh. Now this might bring the yellow. Jeb Burton.
Is that Myrtle Beach?
This is
and that is a caution.
Actually,
there's no doubt. He's stuck right now,
that's
guys.
not sand, as Jamie pointed out to me earlier.
That is gravel.
It's gravel.
That is gravel. Yeah, or kitty litter.
Now the stadium trucks that were running here earlier today, they could drive right through that. An Xfinity car, not so much. And there is our 6th caution
Austin
of the day.
Just got mad, and A.J. Allmendinger just got really excited.
Cindric is as mad now as Allmendinger.
Wave of emotion.
He's going to make it out. He's trying to get out of Myrtle Beach.
Well, it doesn't matter because they already threw the caution flag.
Hey, let me ask you this. Is Cindric as mad now as Allmendinger was earlier when he found out about the penalty?
I tell you, I think if I'm Austin Cindric and that team, I'm assuming there is going to be a caution. I think if you're not thinking there's going to be a caution, then you're being pretty unrealistic. We talked about the pushing and shoving, and you know these guys have watched road races before. If Larry McReynolds was here, he would tell you his McNuggets about when the caution is going to fall, and you've got to know it's going to come late.
I just go back to what I said earlier. Right now we have 30 cars on the lead lap. You're going to have, you know, at most 5 laps to go if you come down here. I almost think.
I think you could gamble that, but I talked to Austin Cindric earlier in the week, and he's like, look, tires aren't everything there, but he said they are somewhat important. And he's like, it cost me the win not having tires there 2 years ago. So I think we're going to see him put tires on. Vince, you got something down there?
Well, just Brian Wilson in communication with Austin Cindric and talking about the fact they have 13 green flag laps on their tires. They believe when they go back to green, there will be about 5 laps remaining or less, and they just don't feel like that's enough time to get back to the front. So I would expect, at least as far as what I'm hearing from Brian Wilson and also the 16 camp, I would expect the 22 and the 16 to stay out.
Ooh.
Well, if you do pit and you get put back in traffic, we know that there'll probably be some wrecks in the keyhole. We saw that earlier, how crazy it gets when you get down to the end. So it might be okay to stay out as long as you can have that track position.
And you know a lot of those cars, Adam, that are outside of the top 10, they don't have the budget just to come in and throw on tires. They're working for the best finish they can get. I think a lot of the guys will stay out. I just know what A.J. Allmendinger just did running through the field, fresh tires compared to the rest. Man, that's why the crews are so concerned and they're holding it all tight to their vest, because either way is a gamble.
What are you hearing, Jamie?
I'm going to go back to the Andy Lally story that we covered from the beginning, expecting him to be up in the top 10. He wanted a top 5. He's back in 13th right now. He just kind of stalled out. Reason being is they're having problems with the brakes. They just overheated him early on in the race. And that last stage caution, they did go ahead and pull some of the tape off, but it's just a little too late. He was pumping him so hard in the corners, he was actually losing position. So just a tough break for them. They're going to make do with what they can with 7 to go.
Pit road is open. And there they go. The leader's driving right by.
Boy, when you look in your mirror, if you're Austin Cindric and you see everybody coming with you, that's the best feeling in the world. I need a little bit of a buffer between those guys that come and get tires and me.
Myatt Snyder, Brian Sieg, Brandon Brown give up their position in pit, but the top 10 all stay on track. next weekend, the Westminster Dog Show is back on Fox. Saturday, it's the Masters Agility Championship beginning at 5 Eastern. Then next Sunday at 7, it's Best in Show. Catch it all on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
I can totally see Michael with that dog right there.
That is beautiful.
That big fluffy poodle.
And plus, I love being at the racetrack with my puppy dog out there.
That's a big dog.
You can see right behind the dog, there's the kitty litter.
That dog right there not entered next weekend. That's unofficial.
Well, that's
that
because
dog is staring that sandwich down, though.
He's a champion. He done won that championship.
Jeb Burton back on track. He did lose a lap after this in turn 4.
Locked up the right front, and it just slid him into the gravel there off turn 4.
Nice recovery. The one thing is, once you lock that front tire up, the only way you can get the car slowed down is to let off the brake, which you can't afford to do at that point because you've already driven too deep into the corner.
What's up, Vince?
Well, certainly Austin Cindric didn't want to see that caution with that double-figure lead. What was he leading by about 11 seconds? He's won here before, and this is such a special place for him. It's part of his family heritage. His mom, Megan, and his grandmother, Barbara, on the pit box. And, of course, Barbara, the wife of the late Jim Truman, who was the owner here. This family owned this facility here at Mid-Ohio. Of course, Truman passed away in 1986 at the age of 51. And Megan, who was Jim's daughter, of course, they're here watching Austin, and I can tell you just by body language, they got a lot more nervous after that yellow flag came out. But it would be all the more special if Austin could hold on and get this win here today.
You mentioned Jim Truman passing away. He did so 11 days after Bobby Rahal won the Indy 500 in 1986, a car that he owned. So meant so much to motorsports, and certainly a big reason why Austin is racing, and a chance to win for a second time at his home track. And a bit of history here. If Austin's able to win, or if Allmendinger is able to rally late and get the victory, they would tie Marcus Ambrose for the most wins all time on a road course in the Xfinity Series. So let's go back 2 years. No race here a season ago. The event canceled due to the pandemic. It was, in fact, the Austin Cindric Show. Third win here for Team Penske. And this is after he was a runner-up in 2018. Felt like one got away.
Just such a great young man, too, and really focused on this Xfinity Series championship. I think we all know where he's headed in 2022, but really has done a nice job. Most races won this year, leads in about every statistical category, and looking to pad onto that today. But he's got something going on behind him he don't even want to know about.
I think you're right. I think if you're the 22 team, when that whole last run's going on, is that you're planning on a caution because you're just expecting that that's going to happen. If it doesn't, it's a bonus. But Austin Cindric, one of the more focused guys, works as hard as anybody in the series, and he knows how to get it done.
And there's a reason why we call the carousel the Regan at Mid-Ohio.
Well, there is. Back in 2015, Regan Smith, one of our colleagues, didn't think that Alex Tagliani was going quite quick enough around the carousel. You see that he slightly moved him out of the way. And look, that is a slow part of the racetrack. And it's one of those places I feel like as a driver that it's acceptable to get into somebody. You know, when you get into somebody, you don't want to wreck them. That's why we see it at Martinsville. I think we could see that again today.
And look where Cindric's restarting here, guys. Front row with Ty Gibbs.
And there goes AJ 3 wide.
Allmendinger to the inside, Gibbs in the middle, and it's A.J. Allmendinger through to the lead. What a pass on the restart by Dinger, and trouble for Cindric, who's off track. No caution yet.
So interesting that Austin Cindric actually chose the outside versus the inside that we've seen all day long, maybe thinking he could get a little better run. Didn't want Allmendinger right behind him, but A.J. was able to get to the inside of those guys, had the most grip on the inside.
There's still 3 wide back there. You can see smoke coming from Miguel Bluto's car.
Looked like a little smoke off A.J. Maybe a bit of a wheel hop as he went into turn 4 there.
Justin Haley around Gibbs. Excuse me, around Michael Annette, and then Gibbs to the inside. Wow, pushing and shoving. We knew this was going to come, Jamie.
Here's the restart.
See A.J. drives in there, gets in deep, gives those guys plenty of room though, right on the curb. Uses them up a little bit on exit, Michael, which I think is expected.
And then a chain reaction crash, bam. And that into Haley, into Austin Cindric, and away went Cindric.
And another caution, Michael, our 7th of the day. Chris Wright, Alex LeBay among those off track. LeBay drives away out of the gravel, but Wright driving for Sam Hunt, unable to pull away. And I think this is a product maybe of what we saw in that restart. You saw the left front of Justin Haley all banged up.
He had some damage earlier, and I just magnified here a little bit more, but I think that all happened off turn 2 when we saw the gaggle of cars get together that shot Austin Cindric off the track. But, you know, we just talked about when the last caution come out, the kind of the wave of emotions, and obviously Austin Cindric was the guy that came out short into the stick on all of this.
Yeah, and it was just a great move by Allmendinger.
It's great racing.
He just dove in there, took advantage of the situation, but unfortunately, around went Cindric, who thought he had a win in his pocket until that caution flew.
He scored 26 right now, Jamie.
Tell what happened here. There's Wright and Brandon Jones off the curb into Chris Wright, and somebody's going to run into him.
Yeah, and it looked like Brandon Jones just got up on the curb, and it'll shoot the car out, and then, you know, there's nowhere for these other guys to go as you see Chris Wright spinning around.
Got hit there by Kyle Weatherman in the 47. Brett Moffitt in the 02 there. Watch the 11 bounce all over the place.
Yeah, and the 11's trying to give Ty Gibbs a push there, right? He sees a little bit of momentum. He's like, I'm going to push him, maybe be able to clear these guys.
Will that tire hold up, J-Mac?
Well, Michael, I think that you'd have to pit there. That can only get worse. It looks like the fender's actually, looks like the splitter might even actually be rubbing on that tire.
Yeah, that's pretty solid stuff up there. I agree with you.
So it will be an overtime restart. We'll see what Haley does here. Any word from the pit area? Other stories to update here, Jamie?
Well, they're hoping to keep Haley out there for the points all in their own. Remember, they won that second stage. They decided to make that call to earn those points. Haley's complaining of the smell inside of the cockpit right now. They looked at it. They said it's because your bumper is rubbing up against that tire. We don't see any bumper bar in there or anything that's going to cause an issue, but it is going to smell bad. So they're just trying to talk him through it, keep him calm so he can get to the end of this race and hopefully earn those points.
Another look at the restart. The reason we're under caution for a 7th time.
3 wide racing on a road course generally doesn't turn out well. I think Gibbs gave Cindric enough room off the corner, but it was just what was going on behind them that bottled up the competition.
Yeah, and honestly, like the through turns 1 and 2 was not bad. Now AJ got a little wide, but they were fine until this happens right here. Like, it wasn't going to be that big a deal. I don't think Austin Cindric was in that bad of a position as they came down that straightaway, but when the 54 and the 11 got together, it sent Cindric around.
We'll go on board with Austin Cindric here, and you can see the abrupt, got to the gas early, but the contact right here. Nothing Justin Haley could do. You could see his front end bouncing around there.
And I wondered if they would pit, because you got tires. You're not going to give up much as far as track position, and here comes Cindric, Vince.
Well, and there is damage on that 22 as well. So they wanted to bring Austin Cindric in, take a good look at the damage that is done. That's Cody Sauls that just went over the wall with the jack in his hand. It's going to jack it up. So they're going to take a good look at it. The left front was wobbling pretty good when he rolled it in. So they're putting the right sides on. They're going to come back over and they're going to take a real good look at this left side and make sure that it is indeed good enough to go back out and finish this race. If it is, and if it's raceable, now you're looking at maybe an overtime or 2. And could that give Austin Cindric with these fresh tires enough time to get back up through the field? Even with this damage, we'll have to wait and see, but they're giving it a good look to make sure that everything is okay structurally on this 22 car.
Well, I'll tell you, Vince, it doesn't look like it is. That left front, you said it was wobbling. It was pretty severe. So if it weren't for that damage, we could say this is going to be fun to watch, but I don't believe that left front wheel assembly is secure.
So there you see it, a good look at how things are busted up there on that front end for Cindric. And they will finish their work up, and we'll see what happens for our defending champ, who was in position to perhaps win this race. And unfortunately, a caution comes out, a restart inside of 10 laps to go, and he gets pushed into the grass, opens the door for A.J. Allmendinger, who takes over the race lead, and now Cindric pulls away. We'll keep an eye on him, and we'll get the overtime restart when we come back with A.J. Allmendinger out front in Mid-Ohio.
Hot.
It's going to be our second overtime at Mid-Ohio for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And the fans getting their money's worth today. Seen a little bit of everything. And I would anticipate we are in line for an entertaining finish. Overtime, a two-lap shootout. And if we get a caution on the opening lap, prior to the leader getting the white flag, we'll reset them, do it all again. We get unlimited attempts. But once the leader gets the white flag, the next flag will end the race. And when you look at our top 10, no surprise that A.J. Allmendinger is leading, except for the fact that he was deep in the field after a penalty not long ago. But look at some of the other drivers in the top 10. Brett Moffitt is there with a chance for his first career win and an opportunity to get...
Oh, and Brett Moffitt's car died.
Oh, yeah, look at that. There he is, just as I talked about him. He pulls out a line. And what a missed opportunity this could be for him. I was going to say a win for him puts him in the playoffs, and now, yeah, and now we get the caution again, and we'll go one more lap. We were set to throw the green flag, and now we extend the caution period. So other drivers in the top 10, you got Ty Gibbs up there, who's going for his third win, trying to go back-to-back weeks. Justin Haley, who we know has damage. Andy Lowley in line for another top 5. Miguel Paludo, many other drivers up there chasing a top 10 finish and in desperate need of a good run.
Yeah, and what I'm wondering, Jamie, did Moffitt run out of gas?
It doesn't appear that way. I mean, because he pitted on lap 53, so he should have enough gas, but it looks that way.
It does look that way, and the reason
they're holding the gas can up.
The reason why I ask is the whole field basically up front pitted at lap 53, and if he's out of gas, Jamie Howell, there's a lot of people that are really worried about that.
Well, one of them being his crew chief, Joe Williams Jr. Just before he got ready to come down the hill to take the green, he said, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. You're the man. You got this. And then all of a sudden it wouldn't go. The only thing that Brett has said to the team is it just won't go. The crew quickly got their gloves, their head socks, their helmets on, ready for him, but he can't move it.
We think they can go around 30 laps. I mean, upwards of that, right?
30 to 32 really is what we were hearing from most teams, Michael.
You know, sometimes you just don't get it full, though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the case of if maybe there was an air pocket in there and they thought it was full and it wasn't, or it could be something else, you know, altogether.
It is odd, though, when you consider the way we're pitting the cars today. And on one stop you do fuel, on another you do tires. I mean, you would
have
think
time.
that lessens or increases your margin for error on something like that. You can double check those types of things. So a bit surprising here for Brett Moffitt, and a tough break because we've seen a little bit of everything, and he could have made it happen on this restart.
Yeah, because on a typical pit stop you might leave when the tires are done, and then the guy doesn't have time to get it full. But when you watch these guys, they put the fuel can in with the car flat, which is how you get the most fuel in the car. And we're going to find out right now, because if it was fuel, it's obviously going to start right up.
This Our Motorsports team, certainly a new team, and do a nice job. And Brett was in contention to win here, starting on the front row.
Yeah, and he's spraying starting fluid into the cowl, and normally they fire pretty quick that way. So I'm going to say they have like an electrical issue.
1 week from today, it's the 14th race of the year. Begin the second half of the regular season at Texas Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Part of a NASCAR doubleheader early in the afternoon on FS1. It's the Camping World Trucks, and then these Xfinity cars. Coverage begins 3 o'clock Eastern time with race day, and we're racing from Fort Worth at 4 o'clock in the booth. Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski.
Here we go.
All right, Ty Gibbs will be on the outside. He's going to try to hold A.J. Allmendinger tight to the inside here as they go into turn 1.
It's overtime, sponsored by Credit One Bank.
It's going to be interesting to see if Justin Haley makes it all the way around for a lap with that damage to the right and left front.
And also keep an eye on Austin Cindric, 24th. The report we got felt good about the damage. Can he come back for a solid finish after getting those tires?
Andy Lally up beside Ty Gibbs. A.J. Allmendinger's got 2 things on his mind. Keep that racetrack ahead of him clear, and don't anybody behind me crash.
Yeah, and the smoke from Justin Haley's car has disappeared, Michael. We thought that might be where he would have to pit, but the team looked at that and thought that it wasn't going to be an issue. You see a little bit of smoking under braking, but it looks like that piece might actually broke away. Tell you what, Allmendinger's not driving away from him. Like, I expected in a couple of corners he'd get away, but his car's not taking off quite as quick as we thought he would.
And right behind him,
Ty Gibbs is all over Justin Haley right now.
I was going to say, the battle for second and the speed that Gibbs has, he just wants to get around Haley and have a shot at Dinger.
You talk about Allmendinger, though, I got to believe those tires are absolutely worn out when you consider the drive that he had through the field to come back and put himself in position to get the lead.
He certainly wasn't thinking anything about conserving them, was he?
No way. And Michael Shank called it, didn't he? He said if anybody can come from 30th, it's A.J. Allmendinger, and here he comes to the white flag, trying to win at Mid-Ohio for the second time in his career. He is put on a drive and in position now.
Riley Herbst around Andy Lally along with Miguel Paludo.
Yeah, Andy's going to be mad at himself. He dropped the right front off on the exit of turn 13 that cost him 3 or... Oh! Big contact with Riley Herbst and Miguel Paludo.
A caution here would end the race because the leader has taken the white flag. We'll see what happens as now Herbst goes around. Since it's the final lap, I would say they're going to let him race back. Allmendinger starting to pull away.
Yeah, and so is Haley, putting some gap between he and Gibbs. Can't believe that tire is still hanging up. That just tells you how tough these Goodyear tires are.
Yeah, and AJ's going to want to have a lead like he has right here, because when he gets back around to turn 12, the Regan, he doesn't want to get moved. So he has to have a little bit of a cushion, guys.
Especially if Gibbs were to get by his teammate Justin Haley. Colleague running 1-2. And this weekend, AJ told me, is like the Daytona 500 for his car owner, Matt Colleague, whose headquarters is 90 minutes from the track. And what a comeback it would be for Allmendinger.
What if you told Matt Colleague his winning car is going to look like that, and second place is going to look like Haley's does?
I can't wait to hear what AJ says when he gets out of the car. He's going to be super pumped. It'll be a great interview with Allmendinger here. What
a comeback for AJ Allmendinger. Second win of the year, second time he's done it at Mid-Ohio.
Michael Shank up there in the middle of that celebration. That's beautiful. 1-2 for Matt Colleague. Adam, you talked about it being a home game. There's Chris Rice. Man, this is cool.
Fifth time that AJ Allmendinger has won on a road course, tying Marcus Ambrose for most wins all time in the series on a road course. And there's Chris Rice, team president, celebrating the third 1-2 finish for Colleague Racing. One at Daytona, one at Talladega, and now they do it at their home track, Mid-Ohio. And there's Matt Colleague.
That was a fun race, huh, guys? A lot of action, a lot of anticipation about this man. Could he drive his way back through the field? Wow, what a performance.
But what a wave of emotions for Allmendinger to go from being in position to win, to getting that pit road penalty, to going to the back, and then catching the break with the caution, and then just having a great restart when he got it to the inside of Ty Gibbs and Austin Cindric.
And I know that means the world to AJ too, Jamie, being able to drive around and salute the fans.
It's so great to see everyone there.
Oh, it feels great.
So this was coming back to the white flag. AJ had already made his way. There you see him taking the white at the start-finish line. And Andy Lally going backwards. Riley Herbst is there, Miguel Paludo. And then Paludo gets shoved off in the grass here.
Yeah, and you know, Jamie Howe reported that Andy Lally had some brake issues earlier in the race, and look, he just overshoots the corner right there. I don't think he could get his car slowed down. I don't think that was intentional by any means, but it obviously, Riley Herbst came out on the raw end of that deal, and it looked like he was going to have a good finish today.
Well, they were both in line for a top 5, and unofficially, Herbst shows 21st. Paludo shows 27th. Ty Gibbs comes home third. His incredible season continues. 7 races, 6 top 5s. And this will be a fun celebration for AJ Allmendinger, delivering for the boss.
It's always cool when you can win at a track that you know is so important to your owner. For me, getting to win at Indy, the Brickyard, you know, with driving for Chip Ganassi, that was a special moment. I think that AJ and Colleague are going to have that same moment right here.
And look at this.
Big congratulations from teammate Justin Haley.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go, baby! Woo! Awesome job.
Looks like he's going to walk right down to Vince and do the interview.
He might give him a hug, actually.
And Matt Colleague, the team owner, giving a big hug to AJ in the celebration right in front of all of the Colleague guests that are over on the other side of the track. So it's a great place to stop and celebrate, not only with the team, but with all the Colleague supporters as well. AJ, what's going through your mind when you get that penalty late in stage 2 and you have to start back in 19?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little upset, but we win as a lose as a team, so I was gonna fight until the checker flag flew. I knew we had the best car. You know what? I'm more damn tired from the celebration there than I'm driving. Woo, I'm old.
Hey, take us to that restart. You put it 3 wide, and ultimately that's what got you the lead.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked that Cindric took the outside. This Ramco, especially Chevrolet, had some massive rear grip, so I launched on the restart, 54, opened a gap, and I know these guys, they'll do it to me, so I was barreling in there when I saw a gap, and I was going to come out on the other side clean. That's all I got there, Vince. You know what? It's so cool. We're at Matt Collig's home race. We got 3 Ohio sponsors on the car. All these people over here are a part of this race team. We got Mike Shank here, Indianapolis 500 team owner winning, and he came here to see me. Like, how lucky am I?
Hey, I talked to him after you got that penalty, and he said, you watch, AJ's going to come back up through and win.
God, I love Shank. Man,
Hey,
it's
all those things that you just mentioned, what's this win mean to you to be able to do that for all these people?
I mean, this is Matt Collig's Super Bowl. I mean, this is what it is. This race here, we got 500, we'll call them Matt Collig people. And, I mean, it's just such a big deal. Like, I always want to win for them, but here I win live, put a lot more pressure on myself to try to win. And I can't thank all the men and women at Collig Racing, ECR Horsepower, Hyper Ice, Nutrient Ag Solutions, Leaf Filter, Leaf Home Solutions, Ellsworth Advisors, Arai Helmets, because they've always been a part of me, Sparco, they've been with me for so long. Say hi to my wife, I love you. My mom just had knee surgery 2 days ago, so I love you, Mom. I told you I was going to win for you. Mom and Dad, Zena, Mr. Tickles, I love you all, so can't wait to get back to celebrate with you.
Well, they get to celebrate a 1-2 finish as Justin Haley managed to bring the car home for that second place, even with that damage that was so significant. It rubbed a groove into that front tire. How did you fight it off to get to the checkered flag?
First of all, congrats to AJ. That's amazing. This is Leaf Filter's home. This is Matt Collig's home. He lives an hour and a half away from Akron, and to finish 1-2 here is really special. Obviously, you want the Leaf Filter car in victory lane, but I thought we were a little better than AJ there at the end. But like you said, I had so much damage. I was just on the splitter so hard. So what a day for Leaf Filter, Matt Collig, Leaf Home Solutions, all the people over there, 500 Leaf Filter employees. It's pretty special. Here's the man himself. You want a word, Matt Collig? Oh, he's kissing me. He's kissing me. I don't know if that means I get a bonus or not, but it is pretty cool to come here to Ohio. This is one we've always aimed for, and really appreciative of the Fraternal Order of Eagles as well. So really, really special day here. My brother's racing his first race, Dirt UMP Modified tonight at Friendship. So good luck to my brother Quentin.
And congratulations to you. We're going to walk up pit lane here, see if we can get to Ty Gibbs. I was listening in on the radio at the end. They said you did a great job out there. Next time we'll bring you something a little better. What more did you need today?
Just overall, I feel like we lacked just a little bit of overall grip, and kind of took us a little bit to fire off. But my guys did a good job, and kept fighting there. It just kind of sucks. The 16 kind of I was a little dirty there. I feel like there's a point where it's we're racing the Xfinity cars on road course, so it's always going to be rough. But he took it to the next level. But I mean, him and the 22 dorked around Daytona, so I don't really expect too much. And I guess I was just a little torpedo that got the 22 and knocked him out. But I really didn't have anywhere to go. But that's just part of it. That's just part of these end of these races. They just get rough. And next time going forward, I know what I need to do. And my guys are going to work hard. Just overall, good day. I'll take third place. We ran top 3, I feel like, all day and led some laps. So, that was good. And, going out here in a positive way. But I just want to thank you for everybody watching, and we'll keep moving forward.
Ty Gibbs still gaining that experience, guys.
He has ice cream with Jamie McMurray. Something tells me he and AJ not going to be having.
He might want to come have ice cream again, get back on that winning streak.
That's right. Yeah, you're responsible for that.
Got an update for Justin Haley. That kiss was his bonus.
And look at this, the numbers for AJ Allmendinger. How impressive has he been? And he'll be a force in the playoffs. His second win of the season. 3, make it 4 drivers now that have got multiple wins this season. Allmendinger joining Justin Allgaier and also Austin Cindric, and of course Ty Gibbs, who's won twice this year. So you saw the standings, and the celebration continues for AJ Allmendinger. Guys, final thoughts today.
Just a great race. I thought there was a lot of movement, a lot of anticipation about what was going to happen at Mid-Ohio, and Jamie, these guys didn't disappoint.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch, and I know Ty Gibbs was a little bit disappointed there, but again, another top 5. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do.
Listen to some of these names in the top 5. We talk about Gibbs, Brandon Jones, Andy Lowley up there. Brandon Brown comes back for a top 10. Michael Annett, Josh Berry driving the 31, first ever road course start. He's in the top 10. Ryan Sieg and Josh Williams as well.
What about that? First ever road course start for Josh Berry, 8th place. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's having a heck of a year. It's been a lot of fun to see Josh Berry's success.
More road racing tomorrow. You saw it there. We're live from Sonoma, 2:30 Eastern time is race day on FS1. And the Toyota St. Mart 350 happens at 4 o'clock. Next up for the Xfinity Series, next Saturday, we're at Texas Motor Speedway. Our coverage begins with race day, 3 o'clock Eastern time, following the Camping World Truck Series. With Michael Waltrip, Jamie McMurray, I'm Adam Alexander. Congratulations to A.J. Allmendinger. He gets his 2nd win of the year at Mid-Ohio.